What makes What is up, my peoples? How is it going, man? Happy Wednesday. My house is completely empty and I feel weird. My wife is gone. My kids are gone. It is literally just me in this house. Well, that's why I'm going to be streaming. You guys are going to hang out with me. Because I don't know what I'm going to do with myself these next 5 days. I think it's going to be a transition for me. This is like the first time in like 5 years that I've been like by myself in some kind of capacity like this. So kind of crazy, kind of nuts, but it's great to see everybody. Beaver Pirate, Saint Strife, Snickers. We got like Mag. Thank you all for showing up and hanging out. Man, it's crazy. Yesterday I gained like over 100 subs on my YouTube channel. That was wild. And I don't know, like it was just like, and I went to go check my analytics to see like what video was popping off. Was it my stream? Was it this? Was it that? And it was just like a lot of my old videos. Like there's literally people watching them now and giving it a sub. I was like, holy crap. Like I've been saying, guys, this is the time where you have people looking for Ashes content now. You have people that are just hungry for it. They want to see what Ashes is about. They don't know, right? This is the thing that I was saying a little bit yesterday with you guys, is a lot of people I think have very big misconceptions about what kind of game this is and what kinds of features are exactly in, you know, this game. And so what I kind of wanted to do, and I don't know, like there's a video I want to talk about that my boy Richie just came out with this morning. I reached out to him to see if I can react to it because it's breaking down the combat in Ashes of Creation. I think this is probably one of the biggest things too, that people have either, I wouldn't say misconception, but I think people like to crap on the combat without knowing just how far along it's come, and also how passionate Intrepid is to keep evolving the state of combat to make sure that it is the best possible combat we could probably have. It's, you know, it's something that they're very much wanting to have. I'm working, but our company is migrating and I have some time. Oh, okay, cool. It's always nice to watch everything about Ashes. Absolutely, dude. Thank you so much for hanging out. 3 months till the A2, so interest in Ashes is going to ramp up. Oh, dude, yeah, it's been ramping. It's been ramping. I think there's a lot of people that have been very much, you know, paying attention to these couple of live streams. I think for some reason, I mean, after the Node War showcase, which I think was probably their best showcase of this year personally, and then we had the architecture of like that dynamic gridding and the server meshing, which was very nerdy, very techy, but I think that also caught a lot of interest to the more general population, and for good reason. There's a lot of really cool stuff that Intrepid is cooking up for Ashes. And now we had the Bard showcase, which the Bard class is, you know, one of those kinds of classes that just isn't really predominant in a lot of the current MMO games. And I think it was really cool to see what kind of Bard we're going to have, the kinds of spells and abilities, and the kind of take the Bard is going to, or the role, I should say, the Bard will have in Ashes, I think is another big thing as well. Yeah, the Warrior and the Bard showcase were top tier as well. Yeah, I love dude, the Fighter showcase to me it was so freaking good. I loved the Fighter showcase. But I don't know how you guys feel about this. I don't know if we should try to watch like a Rive video. But I would love to watch like a video that basically explains Ashes of Creation. Because I think Rive linked a video. Let me go real quick to see if I can find it. This is, I don't know if it's, Okay, here we go. This is the video I'll probably watch because I feel like, you know, because there's a lot of new people, I think it's just beneficial to watch something that kind of indicates to people like exactly what Ashes is all about. And so if you know, my boy Rive Genesis, I mean, we all know the Lazy Peon videos and they do very, very well. But, you know, to support a little bit of a smaller creator than Lazy Peon, my boy Rive Genesis, he created the comprehensive overview of Ashes of Creation in 2024. It's a 15-minute video. I think watching that and having the explanation from someone like him, because Rive is a very smart dude, the way he orchestrated this video, and this is a video that I have seen, but at the same time, like, I feel like it's still very pertinent to watch. And especially because, like, in my comment section, it's kind of wild to see new people like watching, like, that aren't in the Ashes community at all, that are watching my streams. So they don't know me, but they know Ashes. So I feel like to watch something that gives them a better overview of the systems, I think is just very, very, very good. Black Slabbath, dude, how are you doing, man? Thank you so much for hanging out. What are you excited for next in Ashes? Ooh, what am I excited for? That is a good question. There's, to me, is a lot to be excited for. I don't know how to articulate this, but I think the biggest thing that I'm excited for it's so multifaceted, because it's like I'm excited for, like, just to experience the node system. I'm excited to experience just a lot of the systems in Ashes. But I think, to be totally honest with you, I think I'm just excited to push buttons on classes. More specifically, the Ranger and the Fighter. I think that's what I'm probably the most excited about. You see YouTube at work, Twitch at home. Absolutely, dude. That's why I loved Restream, man, because the Restream, I've had so many people you know, let me know, you know, thank you for restreaming, or, you know, doing the Restream program, because, you know, I prefer YouTube over Twitch, and there's some people that prefer Twitch over YouTube. But either way, whatever your preference is, you can watch me on either. And to be honest with you, I am more of a YouTube person myself. I have YouTube Premium. Like, I'd rather just watch it there, being an ad-free experience. You know, but hey, you know, watch me on whatever you want to watch me on. I'm excited to playtest off-meta builds similar to what I did in Arcage. I'm excited to see exactly what kind of weapons are going to have really good synergies, and what weapons are just going to feel like complete butt on certain classes, right? But overall, I'm really hoping that all of the weapons work, right? But, you know, we'll just have to wait and see, right? And until we get in there, right? That's why I don't like having conversations about, like, how something it should feel or whatever without me not even playing the game, because it actually could feel that way, but, you know, we just won't know. Let me see. Looking forward to help shape and test the game. Looking forward to giving feedback to you. That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you purchased Alpha 2 for you to do that. Let me see. ELOCXIE. Yo, what is up? What's going on? Let me say, I was joking, but I was going to be a rogue running around with a spell book. Yeah, just be a rogue and hold a two-handed staff. That'll be awesome. That's the thing too, is like, I feel like some weapons are just going to feel really weird on certain classes. Like, if you're a ranger and you're not using the bow and arrow at all, like, I feel like that's just going to be really weird, right? So I think certain classes are going to excel in certain weapon types, but, you know, we'll wait and see. Let's go ahead and Elo. Okay, looking forward to checking out the spear, playing fighter probably. Yeah, I'm definitely going to play the fighter. I want to play The fighter, the ranger. I'm gonna play all the classes, but the twos that I'm more excited about right now specifically is the ranger and the fighter. Like those two just look so freaking good. My fighter is not playing spell. Yeah, no, my fighter is not either. I really want to see dual wielding. Like I want to see two one-handed swords on the fighter. That's what I want to see. Like I am really excited for dual wielding, but we really haven't seen that yet. So it'll be interesting to finally see it once we get in the Alpha 2, though. All right. Without further ado, let's watch this pretty punum right here. Alrighty. Let's go.
What makes combat good in an MMORPG? Is it the freedom of movement, the unique abilities each class has access to, the weight of weapons your character is wielding, or perhaps the way players choose to attack via systems like tab targeting and action combat? Combat is the essential system in every game. Whether it's an action RPG, a role-playing game, or a massively multiplayer online RPG, it is something that can really make or break the entire experience if done wrong. Out of all of these systems and games, combat will be the one every player uses the most, as they literally cut their path through to endgame content or to complete whatever mission it is they're on. For Ashes of Creation, combat is one of those things that, in the beginning, they really seem to struggle to get right. If you haven't followed the
Well, to be fair, I think any company that is starting from scratch that hasn't had any kind of a record, of making games yet, right? This is, Intrepid was a fresh company and stuff like that. And yes, the people that Steven hired, were from other companies that did make MMOs and everything like that. But to have that synergy and to have because there was probably so many ideas being thrown out to Steven and to well, this feels really good or that feels really good. But ultimately it's about what feels good to us, like the people playing, right? Vlhadus, do you think two-handed tanks will have any chance? I hope so. I hope so. I hope that just like how the ranger has to default to a bow and arrow, I hope the tank doesn't have to default to always carrying a shield. I think that would be a huge mistake. But again, this is what we're going to have to play test. This is what we're going to have to figure out once we get in the Alpha 2. But I hope that, you not being... If you don't like the sword and shield playstyle, you shouldn't be beholden to that, right? This is the thing that I've said and advocated for many, many, many times on my streams is I want the tank and the cleric specifically to have the most diverse playstyles available to all players. That's what I've been saying. Does dodging have iframes? I don't think so. I don't think so. Yeah, no. Let me see. Parry tanks. Let's go. Let me see. Guild Wars 2 has the same system. All classes can use most weapons. They made it work somehow. Yeah, I really feel like with combat specifically, it's a very diverse topic because you have people that are very much on one camp of being very much tab is really good to people. It feels really good. They don't like action, and then you have the complete opposite camp where action is the way to go all the time, no matter what. That's the new age. That's the new the combat system that's just going to, make tab just obsolete and, whatever. But I think a blend, and I think that hybrid system is pretty much the way to go. Because I feel personally like melee should actually be more action-centric. But ranged should feel more tab-centric. I'm sorry. And I know there's some people that really love action in the sense of ranged. I'm not one of those players. And I think as a whole, I think those people that do like that are in the minority. And especially if you have to target your heals in that sense, that's just, ugh. You see tab is kind for focusing behind the lines. Yeah. I mean, because I've healed, and I love healing. And dude, and when I was watching New World heal, when it first launched, I was like, oh God, that looks really, really, really bad. Yeah, wife is already out of town already, man. So, yeah, no, for real. Yeah, it's just me at the house now. So that's why I'm streaming. Tab target is good for older players, but I do feel like it's kind of outdated. Well, that's why I think the hybrid approach is the best approach, because you should have the best of both worlds and you should be able to choose the kind of combat you want to play with, right? Like, that's the thing. Oh, what's up, Strixon, dude? Let me see. Trying to heal in action combat is freaking a nightmare without every heal being an AoE. Yeah, I know. Like, it's, as someone who really enjoys healing, like, you either have to make all the heals smart heals or AoE. And it's just, I don't know. There really isn't that sense of skill that's involved in most of the time for when you're healing. And also, too, it's just annoying. Like, I just find it to be very, very annoying.
The game closely, well, then last time you tuned in, maybe you didn't think combat looked fun at all. Maybe it really turned you off from this MMO. Over the last 7 years, we have seen many iterations of Intrepid's take on combat, as they have gone from Alpha 0 to Apocalypse to Alpha 1 and beyond, as they strive to nail down the perfect hybrid system that feels good and...
Richie, you forgot one iteration before this. You guys remember when we were rewatching all of the live streams from like start to finish, like at the early Kickstarter? Do you remember the combat where it had that little, like where you had to, there was like a little spot that you had to hit like the button again to like do like a crit or to do more damage? Do you remember when that was the combat? And this was, I think, at PAX East. Like, you guys remember that combat, which only lasted, I think, for that playtest, because again, there's been a lot of iterations on combat. Combat has probably been the most iterative and out of any system, probably in Ashes of Creation. Like 100%. Yes. Oh, the timing minigame. Yes, exactly, Psycho. Like, that to me was, oh my God, like what were they thinking? But also too, like, I understand that you have to try it, because in your head you're thinking, oh, it could be fun, and then you practically do it and you realize, yeah, no, it's not really that good, and then you start getting the feedback from people who are like, yeah, that doesn't feel good. So
in both tab and action mode. Yes, I said tab, target, and action combat mode. Intrepid is taking a more unique approach to combat within Ashes of Creation, something that a lot of MMOs stray away from. Their goal is to give a good balance between the tab targeting combat like you'd find in games such as World of Warcraft and the action combat from games such as New World, while allowing players to seamlessly switch between the two stances, allowing them to choose what feels right for their playstyle. Intrepid's goal for combat when it comes to Ashes of Creation is for it to focus on strategy, wanting players to think about their next moves and have the actual combat feel responsive, mobile, and fluid. And now, after 7 years of development and many iterations, Intrepid has finally appeared to get combat in a place where it's setting a solid path forward through the Alpha 2 testing phase and beyond. The original direction of this hybrid system was straightforward, giving players a selection of both action combat and tab targeting abilities, allowing them to spec into the ones they want, really bringing their playstyle towards one direction or another, or perhaps meeting somewhere in the middle. If you want the majority of your abilities to be tab, well, you could spec into them that way. If you want the majority to be action, this is also your choice and something that's mostly doable, although you won't be able to go 100% in either directions. And while the designs...
And me personally, like, I'm really waiting to see abilities that truly focus on one style or the other. Because I remember Steven talking about like, oh, well, if you want to choose like 80% action, you can, and have like 20% tab, or vice versa. You can have 80% tab and 20% of your abilities be action. I'm still waiting to see what abilities are more action oriented and what abilities are more tab oriented. Like, I think that's going to be very, very important, because again, even though as a ranger, I don't want to aim my basic attacks, I don't mind if there was an ability that I chose that isn't a base attack, but an actual ability that has like maybe like a 30 or 45 second cooldown that I aim and I can completely whiff on it and miss. I am down for something like that. Like, I am down to be able to choose an ability that is a truly action-based ability that does a lot of damage compared to a tab-based ability that doesn't do as much damage because it's just going to follow the target, right? Like, that to me is what I'm waiting to see. And again, you have to understand too, like, we're always seeing like anywhere between level 10 to like level 15 mostly, but also we've seen glimpses of like level 25 and stuff like that. but I think we truly haven't gotten an entire kit of abilities from any of the classes yet. So, and we also haven't got any kind of balancing or any kind of like, fixes, like as an example for snipe, right? Snipe on the Ranger could end up being an action-based ability, right? There could be a lot of feedback from the community that says, hey, we love snipe, but we think snipe should, it would be better fitted to use this ability as an action-based ability. And Intrepid could be like, oh, okay, well, let's try it, Like that's something that I think would be really good. And then you also can hybridize abilities. Like let's say as an example with snipe, Intrepid's like, well, we like the fact that snipe is a tab-based ability, so we're going to have like 2 snipes that you can choose from. You can have a more action-based snipe or a more tab-based snipe. And then let's say the tab-based snipe doesn't do as much damage, but the action-based one does. So you can choose to be like, oh, do I want to aim this ability, or do I just want to be able to charge it and launch it off? Like that's the thing that I think would be really, really cool to see. And again, that's something we really haven't seen yet. But this is all conjecture. This is all us powwowing, talking about it, because ultimately, once we get in the Alpha 2, that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be looking at each ability and asking myself, could this ability work in both? Or would it be better served to just lean into a singular direction and just have this ability just be an action-based ability? So if you're not an action Andy, this ability might not be the best thing for you as a player. So maybe looking at this other ability that it's either a hybridized ability or just a more tab-based ability. Like that's what I'm really, really wanted to see so far.
In this system is still the case and still how Intrepid is planning to make it, you may not see that much variety when we head into Alpha 2. The level cap itself is only 35 at the start of testing, so you won't have nearly all of these skills available to you that you may find come launch. When you jump into Alpha 2, or perhaps watch your favorite streamer participate, you may notice that there are 2 different camera types. The first being the tab camera, which allows you to cycle through targets, hard locking onto them like you normally would in the traditional tab target MMO. When you tab select your target, you can just cast that ability and boom, damage is done towards that enemy you had tab selected. With this, you have the more traditional camera setup where you can click and drag with the camera with your mouse to get the direction you desire while playing. The second camera is called the action camera. When activated, the camera is now tied to the cursor movement instead of a click and a drag, and a reticle appears on the screen. The reticle allows you to freely swing your weapons where you desire, which is something you may find yourself doing.
And don't be like, oh, what is this guy doing? This was Steven playing the fighter, guys. Okay, so let's be gentle. Every time I see Steven play, it's just like I always want to facepalm and be like, Steven, this is your game. Why aren't you playing this in the sense of like, you've played this more than any one of us, and it's like I feel like I can get in this game right now and move and produce combat better than you. What's going on? Oh my god.
Quite often. Intrepid doesn't quite have an auto attack like you'd expect, but instead has a base level attack that you can cast from either clicking the cast key in tab target setup or clicking and swinging your attack with your mouse, which is what gives your base attacks a bit more of an action combat feel. For targeting, action combat has what is called soft and hard locking. Soft locking is when the reticle moves over a target, where you can then cast abilities at this target. This soft lock will be indicated by a slightly grayed out targeting plate, but if the reticle moves away from that target or the target moves away from the reticle, the target is now gone. Hard locking is what resolves this issue, and when you want to hone in on a specific target, you can right mouse click on that target you have soft lock to hard lock it. The targeting plate will then no longer be grayed out, and you can use tab to cycle hard locked targets within proximity so you don't have to keep switching stances. Skill wise, each class has a variety of templated skills which allow for free aim in action mode, and targeted skills which require you to have a softer hard lock target to cast. Some of these abilities can even can be body blocked, which means if you are free aim casting an ability and someone moves in the way, it could hit that player instead of your target. If you want a complete breakdown on each action and tab target ability, the Ashes of Creation wiki is a good place where you can check that out. If you're a ranged user such as a mage or a ranger in action combat, well, don't expect any perks when it comes to landing a headshot on an opponent, as Intrepid has stated that there will be no headshot mechanics or anything along those lines. Going into Alpha 2, the time to kill, or TTK, in a 1v1 PvP.
I'm okay with no headshots. Like, I think the headshot mechanic, again, this isn't an FPS, right? And I think if we're not, I don't think they're ever going to lean so far into the action mode where hitting certain limbs is going to produce more damage. But I think what the people in the action camp want is this skill to be able to hit your target, even if it's moving. And they also want action-based abilities to do more damage because you having to use your skill to hit that moving target rather than just a tab ability that auto follows them. So that to me, I think would be a fair trade-off, is just doing more damage in action mode. But I don't think the whole headshotting thing is just something that, you know, whatever, right? Let me see, action-based ability sounds whack. Like I said, I mean, it may not be for you, but there is a lot of players that do enjoy action-based abilities. And for me, like, as someone who really wants to play the fighter, I want more action-based abilities on the fighter because I want to be able to cleave. I want to be able to have that freedom of movement. I don't want to have to like cycle, tab through all of the enemies or whatever. I want to be able just to hit everything I need to and, kill, basically. So it just depends on the type of person you are. Like, I think most people that, come from an MMO and they're mostly a caster, they look at action in the sense of, like action, that's so gross. But I think a lot of the people that love action stem more for being a melee fighter, like a melee class. I've seen it so many times. Every single time I talk to somebody that is an action person, I would say 8 out of 10 times they are a melee person. Like, it's just so obvious most of the time. Action requires a lot of client to server communication and is more affected by lag. Add in the amount of people that they want in their group PvP and got a lot of data. Well, I think we can all agree New World, as far as in the sense of combat and the sense of their server stability, I think they do pretty good, right? In the sense of the server stability or whatever. So I think Ashes can definitely mimic that same kind of thing, right? It's just going to be a matter of testing and leaving feedback. There's range for melee spells, so that could be considered action-based. Let me see. I like more action-based gameplay. It seems pretty rough in comparison to tab target for this game so far. Well, and again, you have to understand, too, that this game is still 2 to 3 years away from the actual launch. So what you are seeing is so far the most, up-to-date combat. But it doesn't mean that it stops here, right? It doesn't mean that the combat or the animations or the abilities just stop getting better. So that's the one thing I want to stress to anybody that is looking at this and thinking, oh, this still looks a little rough. It's supposed to. They're still going to be working on it. They're still going to be working on animations, VFX, sound effects, abilities, like the whole 9 yards. Like, combat is nowhere near done. But like I've said, in my opinion, I feel like the combat right now is at a 7 out of 10. And the fact that we're still almost 2 to 3 years away from launch, that's a pretty good place to currently be at. Because we could be like any other game we could be at a 4 out of 10. So, will bow attacks fire a projectile that will have a travel time? Yes. There will be a sort of travel time for projectiles, but and there will be obfuscations with that as well. Like, because I remember when they were doing the ranged combat and the ranger was basically moving and there was a tree in the way of between the ranger and the mob, and the arrow hit the tree and not the mob. Right. So, and again, I'm just letting you know how it currently is. I'm not saying that that's going to be the final decision, the final design, or any of that. I am just trying to explain that is what is the case. Again, that could be easily changed. That could be easily, like, with feedback given by the community, can just be thrown out. And then, it doesn't have that kind of travel time anymore, or, whatever the case is.
setting is expected to be between 10 and 30 seconds for the same level equivalent geared player. But this can obviously vary on archetypes, as Intrepid isn't planning to have each class balanced on a 1v1 level, but more on group gameplay, and they are focusing heavily on something they're calling the rock, paper, scissors method, meaning while a mage might be strong against a cleric in most instances, there's always going to be that rogue out there that can easily rip apart the mage, but that rogue may also struggle against fighting that same cleric the mage easily defeated. Each archetype will have its place in the party, but going out solo you may
see, and this is the thing I know me and Sneckers were talking about. I don't like the fact that the short bow has a 40-yard range. That to me makes no sense. I think the short bow should literally have maybe at most a 20-yard range, and the long bow should be at a 45-yard range. Like that to me would be a better trade-off. I don't mind how fast the bow goes off, right? It's a short bow. You should be able to be a little bit more quicker with it. But I think the biggest thing for the Ranger so far that, I've tried to leave feedback for is the short bow needs to have a way closer range, way closer. Like it should not have the same range as a long bow, because then what's the point, right? And then also too, if 40 yards is a really long time. So you're saying that you would, if you wanted to keep that the same, then that means you would give what, the longbow a 65-yard range? That would be ridiculous in my head. Like I think you need to kind of nerf a little bit of the short bow as far as the distance. If they had the crossbow, it could still be it could still have the short range. Well, crossbow is not currently on the table right now, so
they struggle at times depending on who you are up against. For non-elite PvE mobs when going out solo, the time to kill is expected to be approximately 6 seconds, which personally seems a bit fast for me, but is something that I'll have a better feel for when I get my hands on Alpha 2. Keep in mind though that any of this discussed could change at any point, as we are playing a game that is in very active development. With combat mobility, Ashes of Creation's combat has split body animations, where your character's upper body can be locked by weapon animations while the lower body is free to continue moving. Basically, this means that you won't have to deal with anything like an animation that locks you, keeping you in place when attacking. Your legs will still move around freely while your upper body carries through the movement, something that we had and then was removed again, and then brought back because combat just didn't feel right without it. Most class abilities are capable of being cast while on the move, but may slow your movement down during cast. As you can see with his Mage Blizzard ability, that even while channeling, you could slowly move around, which should really help with combat feeling more fun and fast-paced. There will be rare instances where players are...
To me, as someone who does enjoy caster classes like a mage or like a priest or a shaman or any of these kind of caster classes, most of them are basically turret based, because anytime you move, you stop the cast. And I hate that gameplay where you just have to kind of stand and deliver the entire time. The fact that the mage will actually be able to like even walk and move is such a huge win in my head, because I just don't like whenever you move just for a split second, you know what I mean? And you need to move just a little bit and you're in mid cast and then now you got to recast again. Like it's so dumb. Let me see. I like that there's instant cast, but there's longer, more powerful spells you can't move. I don't mind if there's a spell that basically says, like Blizzard as an example, right? Like you're basically seeing the fact that you can slightly move, like while channeling Blizzard. I wouldn't mind if there's like an additional talent that chooses for you to have a stationary Blizzard and it does more damage, right? Or it does something like an additional effect because you're hard locked into not moving. Like I don't mind if there's certain decision making processes like that as far as talent choices go, but for me, just for me specifically, I love the fact that you can move and cast. I think it's just way better.
Locked in place for casting, but this is something that may be reserved for the most powerful of abilities, giving it a counter to the massive payoff that is about to be cast. There is also said to be a chance that weapon weight may affect player mobility as well, but this doesn't seem to be implemented and may have changed completely. Player movement in combat will also include things such as sprinting, with every archetype having access to it, and no, you should no longer see this ugly wind effect when sprinting that everybody hated in Alpha 1. There is also mantling over edges, which is something that was introduced with Unreal Engine 5. All archetypes will also have the ability to unlock active dodging and active blocking abilities, which may consume stamina on use. Active blocking won't be locked to shields either, as any weapon type will have a parry feature that can lessen the damage, but it won't be as effective as that shield. Different weapon types / equipment.
I hope that is incorrect. Like, to say that, because again, you're basically defaulting everybody to go and use a shield then. Like, it's not going to be as powerful. And I feel like you shouldn't be burdened by a weapon in that sense. Like, you should have the freedom to choose like whatever weapon you want, whatever playstyle you want, and still be as effective as a tank, right? That's like saying for the cleric, oh, well, yeah, you can use a wand, but if you're not using a two-handed staff, like it's not going to be as effective. Like, could you imagine that? Could you imagine as a cleric, like you're basically hard into using a two-handed staff because that's just the weapon to use? Like, that feels terrible. Like, you should be able to use whatever weapon you want to use. And that goes for the healer as much as the tank. So, yeah, that wind effect was definitely because Arcade. Yeah, I didn't like that.
Cater towards different damage types, such as shields blocking direct melee damage, and sigils that are better for blocking magic damage. Ashes of Creation, while it still has a very long way to go when it comes to its development, has shown with its many previews that they are actively listening and responding to player feedback on all things, especially combat, and it is just going to continue to get better as we get further into Alpha 2 and move ahead on that road towards launch, and I cannot wait to see where it ends up.
Absolutely. Well, guys, another banger video by our boy Richie SH. If you want to go give the video a like, thumbs up, give it another watch, do whatever you want, but this is a great video. I think combat has been the most talked about thing in Ashes. Yesterday when I was streaming, we had a whole debate about corruption. So that was the kind of choice then. But I think combat is definitely one of those things that, you know, you have someone like Black Sabbath is like, I want WoW combat, you know, 1-for-1. And I think from a lot of the WoW's perspective, again, because I'm a WoW player, I've been in that community. I've talked to a lot of people from that community. They're just wanting to have a game that feels like WoW, but that isn't WoW. And I think that's a little bit unfair because Ashes isn't trying to be WoW. Ashes is trying to be Ashes. Now, there could be some similarities, right? Of like the translation of movement, right? Being able to move in WoW is very similar to moving in Ashes. There could be some abilities that kind of translate to like, oh, the charge ability in WoW seems very similar to the charge ability in Ashes. But I think there is going to be a little bit of, I'm afraid of change. I think a lot of people are. I think, you know, even for someone like myself, it took me almost 16 years to break away from the WoW community to go into something completely unknown, which is the Ashes community, into a game that I can't even play and know if this is a game even for me. But as I've, you know, researched and as I've, you know, covered this game intensively, like this is a game that I truly want to play, give feedback with, and make this game as best as possible. A lot of people don't want to adapt. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where, especially if you have like a home MMO and everything in that MMO feels really good to you, it is going to be hard to change. Captain Redbeard, dude, thank you so much for the Prime, dude. Thank you. And also welcome, dude. It's been a bit. Let me see. Any thoughts on how wrong the Pirate software is with respect to guilds? Steven has said that the guild has limited mastery points with 30 to 50 player slots per guild. At first, you can level up the guild and add mastery points to increase the guild size, but not at the cost of not spending those mastery into specific boosts. So my whole thing is I think Pirate software had a misconception first off with servers. I think he believes that there's going to be one mega server and not servers, right? Like realms, because you saw the whole one realm thing. And that to me provided a huge misconception on his part. So I think once he discovers and learns that, oh, there's actually going to be servers and the concurrent player base is going to be anywhere between 8 to 10,000 players, I think he'll change his mind, or I'll think he'll correct himself in the sense of what he wants to probably do in Ashes, or maybe not. I don't know. But the one thing I did say yesterday, if you want to go watch that, you know, the video that I did reacting to that Pirate software video, I think big guilds are going to have a massive advantage regardless of the talent system, regardless of what they choose to do. Discord is such a huge boon for very organized guilds. So regardless of how you have to chop it up at first, right? Like if every guild has to start off with maybe 50 players and then from there you level it up, and if you want to go to a max of 300 player size, then you can do that. But if inevitably like organized guilds will, persevere through, right? And then you also have to hear what Pirate Software was talking about when he led, in EVE Online, he played it for 16 years and was one of the largest guilds in that game. That tells me that he did not stop and he was very organized and efficient to last in his guild in EVE Online for 16 years. So that to me is, again, whether you have a talent system to try to give a boon to smaller guilds, I don't know if that is going to be enough of a compensation towards these massively organized large guilds. Yes, are you going to have very big dumb guilds? Absolutely, right? You're going to have guilds that are just going to have a lot of players in there. There's going to be no leadership, no organization, and yeah, those guilds will fall apart 100%. But I feel like there's going to be a lot of guilds that are going to be very, very organized. And so, again, like, you're not going to be able to stop that. The whole, like, oh, well, you're going to provide drama if you limit the amount of players. I don't really think so. Because, again, if you're under Thor, right, you're in Pirate Software's guild. If he makes an at everyone and says, hey, meet us in here, we're going to completely deplete every tree we see in this entire region, all of his people are going to go. You don't need Ashes of Creation to facilitate that command. You just need Discord. And so if you want to completely deforestize the entire Riverlands, they'll be able to do it. And they'll have the numbers to do it. There's no stopping that. So there are going to be systems in the sense of where you are going to have a finite amount of space, right, allocated, because of course we think of like castle and node sieges, which is going to be probably anywhere between 250 versus 250, potentially 500 versus 500. But in how that is allocated is going to be also be very different, could also change. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I think people aren't truly aware that there's still going to be a massive disadvantage for smaller guilds. Now, if you're in a server with no mega guild and everybody is all, just like 300 person guild here, 300 person guild here, and they're all in different, teams and different factions or whatever the case is, then yeah, I think that's the intent, right? But again, there's no stopping, a huge guild like Envious or a huge guild like Legacy, right, that we know of in the Ashes space that has thousands of players. If they want to create 12 guilds in their server, who's going to stop them? Right? Like that's the thing. Let me see. Zerging on finite loot stops them. Well, not really. Like, again, like you have to understand that these people, when it comes to creating the efficiency, right? Like you have to take it into account that eventually they're going to get gear. Like if you can harvest and get all the materials and know that your guild, because of how massive it is, you're guaranteed gear eventually, because what other guild is going to stop you? So you say finite loot, which I agree to an extent. But if you're not in that guild and then you try to go to a smaller guild on the server, does that mean that that guild is going to have that loot? No, you're not. Because that bigger guild is going to be constantly farming, constantly in those areas because of how many numbers they have. Like, I'm sorry. Like, and again, I know there's people that come from like Lineage 2 or Arcade or whatever, where they think this is going to be, like a stopgap. And it may be a sort of stopgap, but again, in my head, I just don't really feel like it's going to be that much of a disadvantage, because again, it's just one of those things where I would rather be in the big guild that I know is going to be able to take down the content and have the numbers that eventually I will be able to get gear, rather than not be in that guild and go to some other guild where I won't even have access to the content anymore because that other guild will always be there. That's the other thing I think people aren't really taking into consideration either. Isn't craftable loot a big thing as well? I imagine big guilds will pump that out. Yeah, exactly. Because they'll have the bosses and the world bosses like on farm, because what other guild's going to stop them? If you have a guild that has 1,300 people or 1,600 people or 2,000 people, and you have like their best people at the world boss spawn, and then around the perimeter is their entire guild holding everyone back, how are you going to stop them? So it's just like I said, like, and again, maybe they won't want to keep that up for a long period of time. Maybe that'll end up to be boring for them. But again, if you go watch what Pirate Software did, he efficiently organized a guild and EVE Online for 16 years. Do you think he was the only guild that was ever able to last that long? I don't think so. I think there were other guilds on EVE Online that were probably just as organized, just as efficient, and lasted a very, very long time. So again, and this is all like, I could be totally wrong on this. I'm just letting you know my thoughts and my feelings on this. I just feel like big guilds are going to have really massive advantages, and there really isn't a way to really stop that. Like, there just isn't. Especially when it comes to everything really being open world. Now, there are a couple of systems that aren't going to be open world systems, but the majority of stuff in Ashes is pretty much open world. So if a big guild wants to have a monopoly on gatherables in a certain region, they can definitely do that without question, regardless of whatever guild system or limit sizing of, the in-game mechanic will do. Again, you just at everyone on Discord and be like, hey, everyone head to this Sand Squall Desert. We're going to be picking flowers from the entire region. You can do that as a huge guild. There's no stopping anybody. They're going to have a monopoly on the server and jerk themselves off all day. Well, and I feel like with some of the big guilds, if you have no competition, it's going to get boring for you. Like, you're going to be able to conquer everything, do everything, and then eventually it's like, again, because the PvP is supposed to have a large portion of Lone Wolf Gunman, dude, thank you so much for the sub, dude. Thank you. Because it's supposed to be this kind of PvP centric game, if you're not PvPing with anybody other than your own guild, like, what are you doing? And I think eventually that's what's going to cause a lot of these mega guilds that are either just going to get bored and then they're just going to go somewhere else, or maybe they want to go conquer another server, or whatever the case is. But again, I find it very hard as someone who wants there to be like pretty decent sized guilds. Like, I think the cap should be 500 personally. That's just my opinion. I talked about it with Jamie whenever I had him on, and he disagreed. He feels like 300 is actually good, but he would rather it be smaller than that. But I feel like regardless of what happens, whether it is 500 or whether it goes down to 100, the fact remains is that if you have a Discord with all of your guild people in there, and you have 3,000 people in there, they're going to be able to be at your whim and command regardless of whatever in-game systems have. And I think that is really the point that I'm trying to convey to people, is that Discord is going to play a huge role in organization of your units. Let me see. Having guild alliance is necessary. One guild can get a tag. One can get PvP the enemies away. Pirates server is the PvP server or PvE server. Let me see. 500 sounds legit. 100 is way too small. Yeah, I think, and I feel like all these numbers and all of this stuff we're gonna be talking about this like as we get to the Alpha 2. Like, once I interview Steven and talk to him about this, like, I'm really curious as to like what his mentality is and how massive a role Discord is going to play when it comes to the organizing of these massive guilds, and what kind of stopgaps there's going to be. But I know, because Steven has also said it, I think even during the AMA that we had, that, there is a finite amount of loot for people to get, and that's going to stop these massive guilds. Like, I just don't know if that's going to be too much of a deterrent. I really don't. Like, I think that's, I'm not saying it's not a good answer, but it's just I don't even know how to fix it. Love the AMA you were on, by the way. Dude, thank you so much, man. Like, I think we all did a phenomenal job. Like Jamie, Nice, Sunny from Loreforge. We all tried our best to get all the questions. I think 3 of the questions that I asked were from the community. There was only 2 questions that were very selfish from me that I wanted to ask, and they were class-based questions, of course. But let me see. What do you all think we will see for this month's dev update? Ooh, originally I was thinking we were going to get the kind of what is going to be in the alpha 2 at the start, since I thought, well, we're probably going to get a live stream in September, but I thought the September live stream was going to be like, hey guys, how are you enjoying alpha 2 since you guys are in there? But that's not going to be the case anymore. But I don't know. I would love to see another class. I would love for them to show off the rogue, even as a preview. I think that would be really, really cool. Just something to look forward to. You know what I mean? But I don't even know if they even have that much work on the rogue, because I'm pretty sure they're working on like other bigger things. And I'm sure all the class designers are probably working more so on the current classes that are going to exist in Alpha 2. And they're probably waiting for the launch of Alpha 2 to then start working on the summoner on the rogue. But honestly, like I would love to see a node siege or a castle siege. I think that would be really, really cool, especially now with them having a lot of people. Any server that is a big streamer chooses to play is going to be scuffed, in my opinion. Yeah, I think when it comes to these really, really large, guilds, right? I think it's going to be really hard. But the other thing too is the fact there's going to be an 8 to 10,000 current player list. And I think that's also going to block a lot of people of the same guild to join the same server at the beginning, because they're only going to have up to, I think, 15,000 like spots reserved, and that's it. And then the server will be full. So 8 to 10,000 that's currently planned to be in game, with 5,000 extra accounts being able to access the server. But once they have those 15,000 accounts, the server's locked. The server will be full. You won't be able to join in. And I know a lot of large guilds that if they don't get all of their players in, or if they don't get all of their main officers in that server, they're probably going to try another server, right? So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to basically see how things will shake up eventually. But either way, I'm excited. Let me play some music for you guys real quick. I'm going to use the bathroom. Give me 2 seconds. All right. Let me see. So I've been an EVE player since beta, right? They run a system called TIDI to handle large masses. Server meshing is so much better. You can reinforce the servers on the fly with the technology, as I understand it, kind of like how you can expand on demand with AWS too. With server meshing, you won't be able to get locked out, and where the Zerg is, 2 Zergs typically go to fight, more content, etc. Well, I feel like because of how large the maps are going to be in Ashes, and just again how large some of these guilds are also going to be, I feel like if the servers are going to be able to hold up on its own, I feel like you're going to have some really amazing battles to witness in Ashes. Because most of the time it's either going to turn into a lag fest. Like if you want it to be like WoW, yes, WoW will make you have 50 more people in an area, it turns into this huge rubber bandy lag fest, and eventually the server crashes because it won't be able to handle everything. That's what I don't want Ashes to be like WoW in that sense, because that's currently how it stands. But yeah, I'm really excited for the server meshing. I really hope they work out all the bugs regarding the dynamic gridding and all that. I think it's going to be really awesome if they can pull that off, especially before Alpha 2. But it's just kind of a wait and see kind of approach. All right. Let's go and watch this Rive Genesis video. If there's, and just, is there anybody in chat right now that is new to the Ashes community? I mean, don't be shy if you are. Whether you just started watching Ashes content recently or whether it was like earlier this year, I think this is going to be a very, very good video for you to see in the sense of like what to really expect. All right.
In case you don't want to watch a 2-hour plus video detailing every aspect of what is known about Ashes of Creation, here is a much shorter overview of the game. Ashes of Creation is an in-development MMO set in a high fantasy world known as Vera, where players' choices will shape and define the world around them. It is a PvX game with PvP and PvE elements intertwined. Risk to reward is a major pillar of the game, as are the 4 other design pillars listed on the screen. Ashes of Creation is based in part on certain elements from the 4 MMOs listed on.
And then it's Lineage 2. Sorry. So we got EVE Online, Arcade, Star Wars Galaxies, Lineage 2.
On screen, but the node system is the key new system that it is bringing to the genre. This is one of the elements that makes it a sandpark MMO, which is a hybrid of theme park and sandbox MMOs.
Nodes.
Nodes are the core system of Ashes of Creation. Most systems interact with this system in some way. Every server will have 85 node locations on the map, and each node will have a zone of influence that surrounds the node. Any player activity in each zone of influence that generates experience for the player will also generate experience for the node. The entire map is covered in a zone of influence for a node, so you will always be contributing to a node no matter where you are on the map except in the starting areas. Zones of influence will expand or contract as nodes level or are destroyed. As players contribute XP to a node, it will level up. There are 7 levels of a node, stage 0 all the way to stage 6, the Metropolis stage. The first few stages are quick, the latter stages will take a lot longer. And nodes can be blocked from leveling if they become a vassal of another node. The vassal system starts when the first node in an area hits level 3. At that point, it'll vassalize one surrounding node, and that node cannot level higher than the parent node. As nodes advance, new content will unlock. Some content available on one server might be different from the content on another server based on how the different nodes advance. There are 4 different node types as well. The node types are Divine, Economic, Military, and Academic. You will be able to determine the node type at stage 1 when you see what NPCs are present. The NPC types for each node, node specialization, and node currencies are shown on screen. Each node type also has several unique node service buildings, and the currently known unique node buildings are shown on screen.
And I believe that we're going to get into the scientific node type only at the start of Alpha 2, just to also give people, because there's 4 major node types. There's academic / scientific, divine, military, and economic.
In addition to the unique buildings for each node type, there are default buildings found at every node type that do not have to be constructed by players, and those are now shown on screen. There are also constructible buildings that mayors can choose to place, and the players can contribute resources to help build. There are limited open slots to place new buildings, so mayors will have to choose carefully. We do not know all the benefits of each node type yet. So far, we know the most about academic and economic nodes, and we don't.
And that, of course, is the scientific / academic. So basically, the node superpower for that is be teleportation within the vassal network between airships. Ability an airship between the 2 metro academic nodes.
Know a lot about divine and military nodes. At stage 6, nodes unlock a node superpower which varies by node type. Players can become a citizen of one of the 85 nodes via player housing. There are 4 housing types: apartments, freeholds, inns, and static in-node housing. Nodes also have many leadership positions. Nodes will elect a mayor every month starting at stage 3, and the election type varies for each node type. Those election types are shown on screen. Mayors have a lot of leadership power.
You see, divine node type doesn't get brought up by people all that much. I'm wondering how that is going to affect PvP. I think every node type is going to be different and cater towards different systems in Ashes of Creation. Divine may not even affect PvP at all. Like, we don't know. That's the thing. Like, once we actually start getting the ball rolling and us being in Alpha 2, like, we really don't know a lot. Even if you go look at the wiki, there's thousands upon thousands of pages. There is still a lot of in-depth information we know zero about. Like the Summoner, one of the our primary archetypes in Ashes. We hardly know much about the Summoner. Mariner classes for Naval. We really don't know much about what Mariner classes are going to even be. Are they going to have levels associated with them? Are they going to have special abilities? I mean, there's just, again, you can take any system and there's just question mark. So this is why I think too, we are still many years away from the launch of this game, because there is so much, absolutely so much to talk about, to discuss, to see if we like it, see if it needs to be changed, see if it doesn't even work at all. Like there's so much experimentation we have to do.
Which you can see on screen. Node wars are another planned feature of nodes, wherein a node can declare war on another node. Node sieges are also planned. These enable players to destroy a node if they win the siege starting at node stage 3. Sieging nodes will not be an easy task for the attackers, and the higher level nodes have a significant defensive advantage. With PvP. Nodes covered, let's talk about PvP. PvP is always on in Ashes, with the only safe zones inside any player-owned housing or in player-owned stalls within nodes. However, despite PvP always being on, there is a system called Corruption that is designed to penalize griefers who attack and kill those who do not fight back. There are 3 flagging states in Ashes: non-combatants who have a green nameplate, combatants who have a purple nameplate, and corrupted who have.
And this was the main topic of discussion yesterday, was this entire system. And so, for some of the new people out there, right? So there's just several ways in how you do something in Ashes, and then you will transform yourself into, like, as an example, non-combatant. If you attack a corrupted player and you kill them, you still remain a non-combatant. If you are a green player and you attack a combatant, then you become a combatant. If you attack a non-combatant, then you become a combatant. So this is kind of like the little flow chart to kind of show people, like, basically what kind of state you're in. I don't know if you can actually toggle between being a non-combatant or a combatant. I think the only way you can do this is by actually attacking somebody. So there isn't, like, you can't just start off as immediately as a combatant, I don't think, unless that's going to be something they're going to add in the future.
Have a red nameplate. The flagging states and all possible flagging combinations are seen in this chart. It looks very complicated at first glance, but in reality it is not that complicated. The only way someone can become corrupted is to first become a combatant by attacking a combatant or non-combatant, and then they get a killing blow on a non-combatant. Combatants killing combatants do not become corrupted. Non-combatants are free to attack corrupted players without becoming combatants themselves. All players start as non-combatants. Players are flagged as combatants if they attack another player. Right. If the player fights back, they are flagged as a combatant. Killing a combatant player will not flag a player as corrupt. Death penalties are also planned for Ashes. The normal death penalty includes XP debt, skill and stat dampening, a reduction in drop rates from mobs, durability loss, and dropping roughly 20 to 30% of carried gas.
See, this to me is like ridiculous. Like, I feel like this in itself is going to have a lot of tuning with it. And again, it's not saying that you die once and you have 5 debuffs on you, right? Let's be clear. I don't think that's going to be the case. But eventually, if you're doing like a world boss or, something like that, if you die 4 or 5 times, you might have 5 debuffs. And they start stacking on each other, right? So your skill and stat dampening could be, you die once, it is at a, 3%, and then you die again, it's at 6%, and then you also now have a reduction in drop rate from mobs. Like, that to me is a little excessive, right? Like, think of like res sickness from WoW, right? Like, if these are all off of a timer, like, that's going to feel really bad. Like, if there's a way to work it off more quickly, or a way to, and let's just be honest, the reduction in drop rates for mobs, that this is a really shitty penalty. Like, this is really bad. Like, I don't like this. Durability loss, that's completely fine. Skill and stat dampening, that is fine. I'm even fine with XP debt. Hell, I'm even fine with dropping a percentage of gatherable materials. But for some reason, the reduction in drop rates for mobs just does not sit right with me. Like, I think that's just a little... This could be considered a little too far. I think most people probably consider this a little bit too far. But I think this is more par for the course for the game. But yeah, I don't know. Again, all this stuff is going to be tested, right? There's just... It's like I say, like... dying in Ashes is going to cost you. Let's just put it that way. So don't die.
Gatherables, materials, and glint. Corrupted players see a 4 times increase in these penalties, and combatants have a 50% reduction in these penalties. Most PvP in Ashes is intended to happen through opt-in objective-based PvP systems. These are high-risk and high-reward encounters that do not utilize the corruption system. These include castle and node sieges, caravans, guild wars, node wars, arenas, and naval PvP in the open seas. Caravans are rolling PvP zones that are meant for...
So let me tell you why I think these debuffs play a huge role in Ashes. So a lot of people worry about, certain, big guilds, spawning or spawn camping or just taking control of a certain territory or whatever. These debuffs are meant to have those players sit out. Otherwise, these debuffs keep stacking. And this is another reason why I think large guilds are going to have a huge advantage over small guilds. Because if you have more people to cycle through, then you can stay in the game longer. You can stay at the territory you want longer. You can stay at the boss spawn longer. If you only have 300 players, you're going to cycle through those pretty quickly if you're just constantly dying. And then you're going to be completely ineffective. And then you're just going to have to go away. You're just going to have to go away from there. While you have another group of people that may have like 3,000 players or 2,000 players or whatever the case is, they have more people to cycle through to where it's like, oh yeah, we have this subset of people that are dying. They're going to go sit out. Here's another 40 people that we're going to bring in. And here's another 40 people we're going to bring in. And here's another 40 people we're going to bring in, right? Like, that's the thing that I feel like some of these very organized guilds are going to be able to accomplish comparatively to the small guilds.
Transporting cargo across the map. Players, when encountering a caravan, can choose to attack, defend, or ignore the objective entirely. A group will be needed to successfully attack a caravan. Castle sieges are another objective-based PvP system. There are 5 guild castles, and each will influence 1/5 of the world map. After a guild first takes a castle from the NPCs that...
See, well, that's always going to be the case. Wars are a numbers game to a point. Well, and that was the thing we were talking about yesterday, Strixon, is the fact that people want small guilds to stand a chance. And again, I just feel like because of Discord and because of, again, how organized some of these larger guilds are, like, I don't know if that's really going to... That's like a wishful sentiment, right? Oh, I wish small guilds can stand a chance in a game like Ashes. And, if you limit the amount of players... and give them boosts and stuff like that, then you'll be able to have these small guilds be able to stand a chance. Like, well, no, not really. Like, again, like I hope that sentiment is true, but I just, in my realistic part of my brain, I just feel like it's not. I feel like the larger guilds are going to have a huge advantage. Small guilds are going to get wrecked by good gamers. Yeah. You'll have a world PvP going on too, where they'll gank half the group while the boss event kills the other half. Yeah. Like I said, man, those organized guilds don't play. Like, they know what to do. Like, they've come from other games that had that experience already. Like, it's going to be wild for some of these people that are just like WoW Andes that don't have any conceptual idea of open world PvP or how organized some of these big guilds are going to be towards the PvP in Ashes. Like, I think people are going to be in for a very rude awakening.
that own the castle at the launch of the server, there are castle sieges every single month to determine the castle owner for the next month. There are many benefits given to the guild that owns a castle, so expect them to be highly contested. As for the monthly castle sieges, the sieges will only happen during a server primetime window. The minimum goal for these sieges is for them to accommodate 250 versus 250 on a single battlefield, but the developers are hoping for as much as 500 versus 500. Guild wars are also planned. There's not.
Let me see. Small guilds get perks and Zerg should just get debuffs for being a Zerg. Well, would you consider a Zerg 40 people? Because again, whatever number you decide to put on there, right, Jacob, the organized guilds are going to be smart enough to just not cap at that number. If you start getting debuffs for having 40 people, then those raids will just be 20 people, 30 people, whatever. Again, you have to think they're not organized and dumb. These people are organized and smart. So whatever gaming mechanic you're going to try to put on them, they're going to find a way to not have that be a disadvantage towards them. That's just how it is. So
not a lot known about Guild Wars just yet, but the goal of Guild Wars is for them to be objective based with great risk involved for both sides, similar to Node Wars. Arenas are also planned with a full ladder system. Arenas are also part of the 6-month-long PvP seasons along with caravans and Guild Wars. Ashes also intends to have a naval combat system that closely mirrors that of Arcade, which is widely regarded as the best naval system in any MMO. There are many different.
Well, and this is the thing too, right? So I know Lone Wolf, you've been talking about like enjoy sharing the one drop with 5,000 guild members, finite loot drops and spawn timers. But imagine being a part of a server where you are like a 300 person guild where the other guild constantly just kills that boss, so you don't even have an opportunity. So imagine never killing the boss and never getting loot, comparatively to being in the guild that is killing the boss, that eventually you'll get a piece soon. Maybe it's in 3 months or whatever. That's the difference, right? So yes, those world bosses and those spawn timers, like they do, like they're supposed to hinder. But you also have to take into consideration that these people are going to be smart about it. So, and because of how large they are, they can branch out into more territories in both continents and probably be as efficient or even more efficient than your smaller guild is going to be. Like, that's the problem. That's the issue. And again, there's just not a way to really combat that. I think that's just going to be one of the sad realities of the game.
Different ships planned, which players can build at a harbor ship workstation if they have the components, which come from various artisan professions. The Corruption PvP flagging system automatically flags anyone that enters open seas as combatants, which in essence makes them an open PvP zone. Other naval content planned includes naval raid bosses, underwater dungeons, treasure hunting, naval-specific quest lines, and a lot more. Moving on to PvE, there are a lot of PvE.
Well, I guess so after waiting 500 days, to get, I don't think it's going to be 500 days, but you have to understand too, there's going to be a lot of gear that's probably going to be very easy craftable stuff. And even if your guild, can craft some of the mythic pieces or epic pieces, I feel like a lot of these very efficient guilds are going to be decked out in epic and mythic pieces. Now, if you're trying to farm for a legendary or an artifact, I think those larger guilds are going to have way more of a chance of earning that kind of thing than a smaller guild will. That's just, again, it's just a reality of it. And if you belong on a server where this guild just dominates every facet, I feel like it's on certain servers, you're probably just going to transfer out of there because it's like, oh, let's go try to go to this world boss spawn. And then it's like, oh shit, that guild is still there. They're still farming it or they're still holding it. It's like, so you can't do that. Okay, well, let's go to this dungeon. You go to this dungeon, that guild is there. They're protecting the entrance. They're not letting anyone in. They're farming that dungeon. It's like, that's going to be the reality of it. So, and again, there's no fast travel. So you're literally your guild is traveling to do some kind of content where you're being blocked out at every opportunity from this large guild. That's going to be the reality. And then I hope what ends up happening is that certain alliances are made, or there's certain hey, my guild, your guild, like, and then let's get like 13 or 20 guilds on this server. They're all small. Get into a Discord call together and let's see what we can do to take down this freaking guild, right? That I hope is what happens, of getting like some kind of like, hey, like we want to do some content in this game too, and we can't because this guild is constantly just doing everything we want to do too. So hopefully that is going to be the real case of what can happen. But I hope people just don't like, oh, well, we're just going to, we're just going to get off the server and go somewhere else that there isn't a large guild or, whatever the case is, right? So, because I feel like a lot of these really massively organized guilds can actually cause certain servers to completely crumble because they're just being too dominant on a server and there's nothing stopping them. I don't know. It's just something that I think about.
PvE options in Ashes. Much of the available PvE content revolves around the nodes and how they progress. Questing is divided into 4 categories: events, commissions, story arcs, and side quests. Events are things that happen in Ashes as a result of development in the world. Several different types of events are triggered due to certain predicates being met. One of the mayoral powers is mayoral commissions, which are simple quests with singular objectives that the mayor can select from and place in one of the available slots. In addition to mayoral commissions, nodes also have regular node commissions available at the commission board, which are system generated and refresh every 30 minutes. Story arcs are unlocked by multiple types of player activity within each server, including...
Let me see. I feel like it'd be very boring for 99% of the guild members and create animosity with, as these are human. I hope that's the case. But I just feel like then what is the alternative? You're in a guild that kills shit and gets stuff done, but you're not getting gear. So the alternative is for me to leave this guild that kills shit to be in another guild that doesn't kill shit at all. And I also don't have things to get either. Like again, like, I'm just trying to look at it realistically. Like if you're in a guild that gets shit done, but you're number 101 on the list to get a piece or whatever, then what truly is the alternative? Right? That's the thing I'm trying to think of. Okay, this is a shitty situation that I'm in. I'm in a very good guild. It's very organized, but I am not like one of the top prios on gear acquisition. So then what do? I G-quit this guild to go to a smaller guild or a lesser known guild that also isn't getting shit done because the guild that I'm currently in is just out competing them and out, you know what I mean? Like, what happens then? And again, this is also coming from someone who hasn't been in this situation before. I come from World of Warcraft. We don't deal with that kind of shit there, right? Everything's instanced and everything like that is how it's done. But I just feel like that's going to be... I truly don't know either. And the smaller guilds get too specialized. Well, again, and I feel like a lot of these really massively organized guilds are going to be specialized in a lot of areas. Like, when I was looking at Loreforge, like they're specializing in everything: PvE, PvP, and economy. That's all the branches of Ashes of Creation right there, right? So you take like the Black Talon Trading Company and 10x that, right? The level of sophistication and organization that Cash, Jibs, and Sunny are doing, 10x that to someone like Pirate Software or to someone like Shroud or to someone that just has a really organized following to it all. Like, that's what I am trying to understand, how it combats against the server and how it, goes against the grain. The Dagger Spell, dude, thank you so much for the follow, dude, and welcome. Glad to see you here. Let's be honest here, the modern MMO player aren't going to put up with all that. Gamers nowadays are very short attention spans, and if they can't do something they want to do right away, they'll just leave the game and never come back. And that's the fear, right? That's the fear. Most of the time, instance content kind of saves those individuals, right? Because it's not like you can, even if you try to like guard an instance teleport spawn or whatever, like most people will get through. I mean, it happens in World PvP and WoW all the time, right? Like you'll see alliance players like outside of a certain thing and they're trying to like hold people off. Let me see. Karl Reef, do you thank you so much for the coral reef. Thank you so much for the follow, dude. And again, if there's any new people watching my Twitch stream, don't forget to hit that heart button to keep you up to date anytime I go live. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button. Also sub to my YouTube channel because you can always follow me. I'm going to be going live pretty much every day this week up until Sunday. So you can always try to catch me when I stream. That organization doesn't trickle down that simply, though. You may have epic leadership, but streamers don't have solid guilds, just fan bases in a group. Typically, the most guilds, you have a really good people on a server and some mids, and much of that is still meh. People just follow orders and fill the gap and join their new Discord. That's also true. My boy Strixon, he's actually trying to organize a Discord server. And it's for like Ashes people to find a guild. So I'll see if he can link me that Discord information and see if anybody wants to join it or whatever. Because I think it's going to start blowing up, especially once A2 starts getting closer and closer. I think streamers have the best guilds. Well, I think streamers, again, there's just a level of sophistication now that isn't that just isn't present. Oh no, Strixon, you're not gonna be able to link it. It's just asterisks. Just send it to me in Discord and I can link it for you. Being a streamer guild is just being a lackey. You'll never be somebody. You'll never get gear. You'll just play for someone else and inflate their fragile egos. Well, and this is why I joined Axiom, because Axiom, they've been around for a long time. They have great leadership, and I don't know. I personally don't want to be the center of anything. I remember very early on, I kind of made a promise to myself to not be a guild leader. Because first of all, I just don't want the headache and the hassle of finding officers and finding all that stuff. And, it's a lot of work, man. I think in a game like Ashes, it's more work than it would be typically in a game like World of Warcraft, where all you have to worry about is just raiding and dungeons and shit like that. Mostly just raiding, because that's where the organization really comes in. But yeah, I personally can't, or wanted to be a guild leader at that point. And it's just so funny because a lot of the content creators in this space are guild leaders. It's just man, that's a lot, man. That's you're going to be a guild leader. You're going to be a streamer. You're going to create content for YouTube. It's where the hell do you find the time, man? It's just kind of nuts. Is it the same Axiom from BDO? I don't know. I mean, Axiom is a huge gaming community. They've played a whole lot of games. But yeah, I've been in Axiom now since 2021. So I've been in Axiom for a long time. I love that community. And again, I always advocate for people that aren't in a guild right now. If you are not in a guild right now, please do yourself a favor and join a guild. There are great guilds out there. There's my guild's there's my guild Axiom. There's a guild Suspect. There's guild Thogley's guild, our fellow dwarves, Dunhold. There's my boy Memorandum, which is Stequeno's guild. There's Genesis, my Rive Genesis, the guy we're watching right now. There's Overlord. There's plenty of guilds out there. I mean, again, go to the Ashes Discord, look up the NA guild recruitment page, and look at all the options there. Please don't be afraid to join a guild now, because it now is the time to be in a guild. 100%. Don't think it's not time yet. It is definitely time. It's been time, actually. So let's keep watching.
Including node progression, the overall narrative of a server is driven by the outcome of all the story arcs and node progression on the server. Side quests are quests with a variety of objectives that can pop up while adventuring in the world. These quests give a variety of rewards and can lead into larger quest chains. Dungeons will be approximately 80% open world, and the open world dungeons will have the hardest content and the best loot. The instance dungeons are more tailored for delivering solo and group quest lines. There are planned to be 12 to 15 raid bosses in the world. Legendary equipment can only drop from...
I hope that's more. I think 12 to 15 is way too little, especially for how big this content is. I kind of want there to be at least 20, or at minimum 20, if not 30, to be honest with you. I think there should be way more world bosses, personally.
From legendary world bosses, but the chance will be low, and the materials these bosses drop can be used to craft legendary gear. Adaptive PvE content such as new POI spawning, new buildings and mobs spawning, and the difficulty of content changing will all happen as nodes advance. New dungeons and new pathways and larger dungeons might open as nodes develop.
Well, I want there to be sometimes even multiple world bosses in a biome, because I would love if there was a world boss that only spawned during the winter. And then there's a world boss that, spawns, maybe in the other 3 seasons, right? During autumn, during spring and summer. But I think that would actually be really, really cool, right? To have more thematic seasonal world bosses. That would be really, really cool. But I think the more opportunities you have to spread out world bosses, again, the harder it's going to be for these massive guilds to go everywhere and try to have every world boss on farm, right? So it just gives more opportunities to those smaller guilds to be able to try to get a kill somewhere, right? The more limiting you have these world bosses, the more infighting and the more, because there's going to be a lot of infighting already, right? There's going to be certain world bosses with certain pieces of gear or, certain pieces of gear or certain craftable materials you're going to really, really want. So there's going to be a lot of contested territory within the world boss spawns. But I think just having more opportunities there and having it spread out a little bit more would be better.
And now we are ready for the next
Tumok
major
is a
topic of Ashes,
Riverlands only
the
boss,
economy.
yes.
Ashes has a heavily player-driven economy, much more so than in the currently popular theme park MMOs. The economy of Ashes is designed to be regional. Prices might vary based on location and supply and demand in that region. The reason for this is there is no central global auction house, there is no fast travel of materials, and some materials will spawn more frequently in some areas of the world. Gold will be generated in a unique way in Ashes. Most mobs will not drop gold, instead they will drop glint that must be turned in at hunting lodges in exchange for player commodities, which can be sold for gold at that node or transported to another node via caravans for a higher gold return. Player trading is done via several methods: simple player-to-player trading, or through player stalls, player shops, or auction houses. That covers the economy of Ashes. Now let's talk about the system that is heavily tied in.
Well, I hope that there's, again, like I wouldn't mind if there was one world boss per biome, right? Because there's 19 biomes. So having like 20 world bosses, you would have one biome, basically having more than one world boss. I don't know. Like, I just think having seasonal world bosses, and again, this is always something they can do eventually, right? I think if they're trying to start off with 20, that'd be really good, right? Let's start off with 20. And then as we get these major patches and stuff like that, then we can start adding more world bosses to biomes that are maybe just more seasonal, right? And then eventually, like every time the season changes, there's a new world boss that spawns in that biome, right? And that basically also makes to where, oh shit, we want to kill Tumok, which only is available during the autumn season. And it's not autumn right now. So we have winter, we got spring, and then we got summer, and then it goes back to autumn. So it also creates a kind of time gate, because you can't kill Tumok all year round, right? That's the reason why I think seasonal world bosses, would actually be very, very good, because that means that you would have basically a certain time period to kill a world boss before it's not available anymore. And then there's a new season because it's now winter. And then now there's the winter dragon in the Riverlands. And then you go to the spring and there's the spring treant in the Riverlands. And then you go to the summer and now there's like the fire dragon in the Riverlands, right? Like that's the kind of vision that I have for world bosses, is to have them be more season inspired. Let me see. What if they scaled the world bosses based on player count? I don't think that'd be a good idea. And I don't even think Steven likes that either. Steven's talked about scaling world bosses towards player count, and he does not like scaling. I don't like it either, personally. I think scaling adds a lot of really funky mechanics to it, and I don't know if it'll really, really work. But again, we'll have to play test it and see for ourselves. But it's just one of those things that I would be willing to test it, but I don't like that. I hate scaling personally. Really hate scaling, but it could be inevitable unless someone else comes up with a better solution, or unless Intrepid says like, hey, we're not going to scale. This is going to be the thing, which means that there isn't scaling. Then world bosses are either going to have a shit ton of health regardless, or some of them are just going to keel over within like 30 seconds, right? Because everybody's overpowered. That's the options for people. What do you mean by scaling? So what I mean by scaling is that if you've ever played an MMO where there's like a certain mob where it takes 5 people to kill, but the mob has scaling. So if there's more than 5 people at that mob, and let's say a 6th person starts attacking, and then a 7th and an 8th, the health starts accumulating. It starts getting higher and higher because now there's more people attacking the mob. That's what scaling is. The mob gets more difficult the more people are present at the location and hitting the mob.
Into the economy and progression systems of the game, the artisan system. The artisan system encompasses the gathering, processing, and crafting systems. Within each of these artisan classes lies different individual professions. As of now, there are 22 different professions in total. Artisan progression starts at level 1 and goes to level 50. Level 1 through 10 is novice, and level 40 to 50 is grandmaster. Players can become a grandmaster in 2 professions. Gathering is the first artisan class, and in Ashes most of the visible resources.
Let me see what I read the bosses do scale. The wiki says bosses scale. And like I said, I remember Steven in one of the interviews where he doesn't like scaling. And again, like I said, I've read the wiki so many times, like I get kind of jumbled up as to what is in there or what's changed or what isn't there anymore. But yeah, if there is scaling there, like I wouldn't be surprised. And again, I wouldn't mind testing it, but I'm just letting you know, my opinion, I hate scaling. I hate when mobs scale. I'd rather mobs just have a finite or like a set amount of health and a set difficulty rather than it getting adaptively more stronger, more health, and whatever. But I think it's because a lot of games don't do scaling particularly well. Maybe Intrepid can pull it off. I don't know. I know this might be too much to develop, but I want the world bosses like the dragons to affect the zone, like they're in the winter dragon, making the winter more fierce. I wouldn't mind if the dragon did that more to where he is, rather than the entire biome being more fierce. Like, I think that would be really cool in the sense of like, you're getting closer because the season's getting more harsh, right? But I also like the idea, and this is something they did actually conceptualize in Alpha 1, is the fact that there was a sort of soft attunement with the world bosses where you needed to do something in order to even go up to the boss. If we all remember the fire dragon in Alpha 1, you know that you need the ring in order to do that. Without the ring, you insta death, as if you got close to the dragon. And I love that personally. I think, that also kind of limits the kind of Zerg mentality of trying to go and kill that dragon. So let me see. I don't like scaling, but I don't like Zergs more. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's all about trade-offs, right? At the end of the day, like if you don't like something, then you have to figure out then what is the alternative, and is the alternative something I like more, right? Because again, even though I do like finite health and difficulty in a game like Ashes where everything's open world and people just go and kill it, it may make world bosses feel like pinatas, right? They may feel completely and utterly like pointless. So then what's the point, right? So then scaling may end up being a better choice for world bosses, even though I don't like it, right? And it's not saying that, I would be like, if Ashes of Creation has scaling, I'm just not going to play that game. Like, I'm not that kind of person. Like, yeah, I don't like scaling, but I'll deal with it. I dealt with it in WoW for freaking years. So it's not a big deal. Again, I'm just trying to tell you guys, just my opinion. I just don't like scaling. I've never liked it. World bosses will probably have finite rate size, which will probably grab the tag. From the wiki, world and regional bosses will scale based on the types, locations, and progressive nodes. Interesting. So it does scale, but not towards players, but towards locations of nodes, or types, locations, and progress of nodes. So if it's like a tier 4 military node, then it'll scale towards that and not towards the amount of players. Is that what I'm understanding? Will not scale based off of player level. Interesting. Okay. So scaling world bosses wouldn't work for Ashes. The bosses have specific set of loot, not based off of many people participating in the encounter. Yeah, world bosses will not scale to adapt to player levels. Yes, that's what I was thinking. Because it's like if they do scale, like, because again, there's so much information in Ashes. This is why I think this is important to watch a video like this. But yeah, it's just one of those things that once we get in the game and once we start playing it ourselves, then we'll determine if this is a good thing or a bad thing. Certain areas probably meant for higher level shit than I guess. Yeah, probably. Otherwise, it would bring your whole guild so everyone gets loot. Well, I think world bosses should actually drop a good amount of stuff. Like, I personally think that if you're doing a world boss, like that world boss should drop like 20 items in my head, personally. Like, I don't want you to kill this really epic world boss and it drops 4 things. Like, and what I mean by 4 things is like 4 different types of things. Like, it dropped a piece of gear and 3 craftable materials. That to me is a very weak reward for an entire world boss. And especially, again, knowing the fact that this is a world boss that has a finite amount of gear, but it also has a spawn timer and everything like that. These world bosses should feel very lucrative to kill. But I don't know. Again, that's going to be all off of feedback and scaling and everything like that. So we'll have to wait and see.
Sources in the world are harvestable, similar to games like New World. Processing is the second artisan class. It involves refining the gathered raw materials. The bulk of the time spent in the artisan system resides in the processing branch. The time to process varies based on the quality of the processed goods. Some processing can be carried out in nodes, but the best processing is done on player-owned freeholds. Crafting is the third and final artisan class in Ashes. It requires the acquisition of recipes in order to craft items. The crafting system of Ashes takes a lot of inspiration from Star Wars Galaxy's crafting. Crafting stations are located on freeholds or within nodes. Higher tier crafting stations are unlocked with node progression. In the highest tier of crafting,
so when it comes to the behavior, like when it comes to player count and stuff, I think all of this stuff, we talk artists. Oh, like there's our boy Corey. What is going on, man? Yeah, dude, we're watching like all the stuff. There's a lot of new people in chat, so we're just kind of watching the complete overview of Ashes Creation 2024. Yeah, and yeah, we're on crafting. Just so happens you had to join at the right time, huh, Corey? But no, I think there's a lot of stuff where I think it's always too early. Like, again, we're not playing the game. Anything and everything is still on the table to change. Like tomorrow, Intrepid could decide to make a major change on the system. We can get in the first week of Alpha 2, and there's a lot of shifts in major systems and how they are done or delivered and stuff like that. But I personally think the reason why I like talking about it, and I think why the discussion is still good, is because it you know, again, Corey, you know, Cortraian Slurp, he works for Intrepid. There's people that come into the streams, that watch YouTube videos, that watch the comment sections. They always love getting a pulse on what the community is feeling about given systems. So to basically say, oh, well, there's no point in having this discussion because whether you're right or wrong is going to be irrelevant, and once we get in the game, we'll decide then. Well, no, it's because Intrepid is currently working on these systems now, right? So if they can get more of a hand or more of an idea of what people are thinking, then it helps them better craft these systems they're working on now, rather than having to wait till October, right? That's my understanding, and that's just my mode of thinking. Here we go.
crafting stations are only available in nodes. That covers economy and the artisan system. Now let's talk about the map. Ashes of Creation is planned to launch on a 1,200 square kilometer world map with an additional Underrealm area of 100 square kilometers. There will be minimal fast travel options, and players will not be able to teleport with materials in their inventory. Ashes will not have traditional zone level.
Now there is a family system, and so we may not say there's no fast travel, but the family system still has me worried because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the wiki, family members can teleport to other family members. Like an instant teleport. Like if one of my family members is on the other side of the map, I can teleport to that family member, or I can summon that family member from the other side of the map. That is still something that I think is not... And I understand the idea of it, the spirit of it, right? Like, if I created a family of 7 and I enjoy playing Ashes of Creation with these 7 people only, if I log into the game and they're, you know, at the entrance of this dungeon and they're like, hey, can you come help me out? Sure, let me summon you guys over here to us. So you summon them up. I understand the spirit of it, but I feel like something like that is literally going to get abused so badly. And I just feel like something like that would just, so Lone Wolf, just let you know, no one can send links in Twitch. It's just going to give you asterisks. So if you try to give a link, it's going to asterisk it out. It's not going to send it. So that person probably didn't see any link. You see it, but what everyone else sees is just asterisks. I'm just letting you know that. Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, I can show you what I'm seeing. I DM'd him. Oh, okay. Let's keep going then. Yeah, family summon is the coolest mechanic. Again, I'm willing to test it, but I just feel like that system is going to have to be severely, I don't know, maybe like a 24-hour cooldown is probably necessary, right? Like something like that, to where you just can do it once and once only per day. Like that's what I kind of think it should be. V-Lord, dude, thank you so much for the follow, dude. Thank you. And welcome.
Level ranges, where you travel from zone to zone as you level. Instead, it will have varying mob levels within each node's ZOI. As nodes level up, higher level content will unlock surrounding that node. Biomes refer to what many people might consider a zone in most MMOs. There are 18 different biomes planned for the Ashes world map. Ashes also has plans for extremely extensive weather, seasons, and day and night cycles. Some biomes will have fixed climates and others are variable. Dynamic weather effects that are triggered by events are also a planned feature. Certain abilities or professions might be enhanced by weather and climate. For example, lightning might be stronger in rain. Day and night cycles occur over the course of a few hours in Ashes. Some resources are only gatherable at specific times of the day. NPCs and mobs may be awake or have varying behaviors at different times of the day. Ashes combat leans towards tab, but there are a lot of template skill shot style abilities, active blocking and dodging, projectile and player collision, and other elements that make it feel a little more action based than.
I thought Steven said the family summon was going to be costly and be used rarely. I hope that's the case. I would not mind if it was like a once per day you can be summoned, right? But I have a thing, especially because of how fast travel is so limited in a game like Ashes. That is going to be the thing. And so you're going to have very organized guilds be orchestrating who your family should be, right? So that their guild can be summoned like as needed kind of thing for whatever events or whatever things they want to do. So I don't know. Like it's just something that I worry about. Again, it could be a non-issue, but we won't know until we get there, right?
Normal tab games. Ashes also features 64 playable classes as well. However, in essence, they are just 8 highly customizable classes. At the start of the game, players will choose a primary archetype from 8 archetypes. The archetypes and their primary role are listed on the screen. At level 25, players can choose a secondary archetype amongst the 8 archetypes to create their class. The table of class names is shown on screen currently. Choosing a secondary archetype does not create new skills, instead it augments the skills of the primary archetype. There are planned to be 9 playable races in Ashes as well. 4 parent races each with 2 sub-races and the Tolnar race, which is a hybrid of all.
The name of this video is A Comprehensive Overview of Ashes of Creation in 2024. I will link this video to you guys in chat once we're done. We're almost done with it. We're just a couple of minutes away.
All the other 8 races. There are countless other systems that I do not have time to get into in this condensed overview video. Social organizations, religions, combat pets, an incredibly extensive mount system. a naval mariner skills progression system, a caravan progression system called the Highwayman system, a stock exchange wherein players can buy shares in nodes, guilds, or social organizations, a monster coin system which is part of the event system wherein players can use monster coins to become a monster during certain events. And there are many more systems and ancillary systems like this that provide myriad different ways for a player to...
If you break down all of the systems like in Ashes, there's over 25 systems in this game that all coincide and connect with one another. Like, it is insane how many systems are in this game. It's just wild.
Advance and progress their character. The bottom line is, this MMO is likely to be the most complex and content-rich MMO at launch, if they are able to get all these systems in and functional by launch. Yeah. And that is the highly condensed overview of Ashes of Creation. There was a lot I had to leave out to condense this video to 50.
Dude, so Rive did this video in 15 minutes. He has another video that's 2.5 hours. So if you really want like your, the George R.R. Martin version of what Ashes of Creation is, go watch his 2.5 hour video on what Ashes of Creation is.
15 minutes. If you want to know a lot more, be sure to watch my full 2+ hour long Everything Known About Ashes of Creation video. If you need a guild, Genesis Guild is recruiting. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
This is a great video. Again, Rive put a shit ton of work in this video, so go give the video a like, give it a sub. But let me see. Do you like the monster coin system just because Fane doesn't, or do you actually like it? No, I've said this, and this is no memes. Like I really like the concept of the monster coin system, and this is because from World of Warcraft, where I came from, I always thought it would be really freaking cool to become a raid boss. And you have like 4 major abilities, and you can move where you want. You can like do these really awesome abilities that are like on a very long cooldown, but you're in control. Like if you were to be in control of Illidan or, Sylvanas or something like that, right? Like, and that's what the monster coin system is. Like you literally transform yourself into like a world boss. And I love that concept. I think it's really cool. And the fact that there's going to be like cosmetic rewards and just like, different things associated with it. Like, and there's gonna be different types of monster coins. Like, I'm very excited about the system. I know Fane doesn't like it, but Fane can tell you too. I've always been very positive about this system when I first heard about it. This is actually one of the systems I've always actually been looking forward to. The only thing I don't like is, and again, I think Intrepid and even Corey's kind of mentioned it too, is that there's monster coins that you can buy from the shop. I don't know if I like that personally. But we don't know until what capacity. We haven't seen the monster coin system be explained in an awfully long time. It may not be that big of a deal to sell monster coins, but I just don't want monster coin events to become this thing that happens so often because people buy them so often, and so people don't care about them. That's what I don't want. I want the monster coin event to actually be one of those things that feels like oh shit, a coin event's going on. I got to go to it. Like I want to get this cosmetic reward or whatever. Like it feels like a rare kind of thing. Like that's what I truly want from the monster coin system. Isn't there a feature in a siege where you can have 8 summoners and they can summon a monster to attack? I remember something along those lines. Steven has talked about, summoners being able to summon like a monster, like when it comes to like a castle or a node siege, like the siege golem from Throne of Liberty. We haven't seen that yet. We don't know what it's going to be comprised of. We don't know how it's going to shape up in that sense. But if the coins is tradable, then it might be a problem. I hope that's, well, and again, that's a very easy fix, right? Like if they are tradable, then make them not tradable, right? Like that's the thing. I think it would be very easy to be like, oh yeah, we're not going to make them tradable. If you can buy them on the shop, then they're just not tradable. It's to me, it's like if it is an issue on paper for 2 seconds, then it could easily not be an issue just based off of what Steven can be like, yeah, you're right. It's not gonna be tradable in game. Let me see if it's in the shop. It'll be a huge problem. Well, and again, we don't know to what context. Like it could just be like the lesser versions of, because there's 3 tiers of the monster coin system, and maybe the one that's available in the shop is just like the low coin, right? So if you like when it comes to the mid or the the higher most rare coin, those are only available in game, right? That could be the case too. We don't know. Like I said, I don't really want to make a big deal about something that we truly don't even know any information about. So I'm not going to get hot and bothered about it either way. But give me, guys, another moment. I got to use the bathroom again. It's what happens when you keep drinking water. I'll be right back. Little break time. Hey, dude, Jacob, thank you so much for the YouTube sub, Dan. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. Wash them hands. Should I say the Asmongold answer? Why, dude? I got a clean dick. Is that what you guys want me to say? Jesus Christ. Let me see. I'm a huge fan of cash shops, even if it had only cosmetics, especially seeing how, if memory serves, you're right, Steven has said that they're leaning towards a sub-based model. Yes. So the thing, here's my opinion when it comes to the cash shop, right? I don't mind cosmetics personally. If I had my way, I wouldn't want a cash shop at all. But as a gamer, we want a free-to-play game with no pay-to-win, no cosmetics. Then how does that company make money? I don't want Intrepid to shut down 2 years after the launch of Ashes of Creation because they aren't making money. So, and I've said this many times too. I personally want like a $40 sub cost to a video game with no, I would gladly pay $40 for an MMORPG with as much content as Ashes is going to produce, which again, it is far outseeding any MMO's foundational launch of content. It just does. I would gladly pay $40 a month for Ashes of Creation with no cosmetic shop of any kind. But again, I feel like that is a huge ask. Like $40 every month, like that's going to be a lot of money. Now, to me, I would basically consider it a bill at that point. But again, I would gladly pay it if they would never put any kind of shop related thing in there. And then we can have everything feel earned in the game. And I think that's ultimately what a lot of players want. Let me see. I want cosmetics fascio and OG cosmetics never being available again. So I think the OG cosmetic packs will be available in game, but in different colors. So the color variant that you got. So like as an example, let's go here. So bring up this one right here. So this one right here, this right here is going to be available in game, but not in this color. So that'll give you a little bit of an idea, right? So this set will be available, but in this specific color, it will never be available for people. So that's just to give you a little bit of an example. Like I think certain things can change, but when it comes to the kind of color variants, and the same thing goes with like the mounts, right? Like the stone golem mount that was available when I bought or it was the month after, because I bought it in September of 2021. In October of 2021 is when they had the stone golem mount, which was like the gray looking tombstone Halloween mount. Like that mount is going to be available for me in that rockish gray color. But there could be a mount that is the same stone golem mount in game that's earnable, that's black, or that's like a marble white, right? So let me see. They explained it many times. Cosmetics are for the sets. Yeah, sets are in game. Yes. So it's basically just one of those things that I think people still get misconstrued about a little bit. So yes, like you will be able to get that set, just not in the color that was purchased or that was done from back then. Which I think is a fair trade-off, because that also means that the really awesome ghost ship, pirate ship, the one that was red, the one that has let me see if I can find it. I always get so jealous because Psychophobic, who is I don't know if he's still in chat right now, but he has this set and I hate him for it. This one right here. So that means to me that this set right here is going to be available in the game. And that means that this ship is also going to be in game, but it won't have this same color variant. So you may find this variant in blue or in purple. Oh my God, dude. If there is a purple variant of this ship, I am going to fucking get it ASAP. Oh my God. Purple with like a deep purple. Oh my God, dude. God, that would look so good. It'd be so good. But yeah, I'll take it in black and purple. Yeah, dude, for sure. I'll take it in. God, a purple version would be so good. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, there's a lot of people that have this misunderstanding with the cosmetic packs. Game cosmetics are better. Steven said it 100 times. Yeah, of course. And I want there to be other sets that we haven't even seen yet, right? That are going to be in-game earnable, that you can't purchase at all, that look amazing. And again, like, I don't even think they've really even started working on end-game gear. Like, let's be honest here. I think they're still working on a lot of the sets that are like level 20, level 30 maybe. But we haven't even seen what an end game set piece like looks like yet. Right? So, and I've always been very impressed with their set designs. Like, I know a lot of people don't like there's a lot of people that don't like the stylization of their cosmetics. I do personally. Like, I love the cosmetics, like, as far as like how they look. Like, if you look at the most recent one, right, from the Bard. Let's see if I can find it real quick. Like this one right here. Like, I'm not a fan of the mask or whatever, but it's for me, it's the quality. Like, the fact is that you can literally look at, and the way this looked in game 2 was insane. Like the leather, the sheen and the light reflection, like it looks so well designed. It looks really beautiful. I don't think we have more than a level 25, honestly. Yeah, I don't think so either. Like, I mean, I just like the craftsmanship of these sets. Like, I think they look really, really, really good. Let me see. Way too many time MMO devs spend way more time and effort on cash shop cosmetics over the in-game ones just to make a quick buck, and that just pisses me off. Yeah, I know. Our character artists are cracked. Yeah, I know, man. You guys have some amazing artists, and this is why I always try to back them up, because I understand that there's people, and art is subjective, right? You're not going to try to please everybody with art, But I think that the stylization of Ashes doesn't look like this generic UE5 game. Like, I think it looks far from generic. Just my personal opinion. But when I look at these sets have so much personality to them. So you see, there's an entire video about how the flying horse in WoW destroyed the franchise. Is there? Let me see. If you send me the link on Discord, I'll be able to see it. Oh, and before I forget, this is the Discord that Strixon is doing for Ashes recruitment. This isn't to recruit to any like one guild. This is like something to like find a lot of the different guilds on there as well. Celestial Steed was the beginning of the end of WoW, in my opinion. How do you feel about the limited flying mounts? I love the fact that they're limited. I think flying mounts, as a WoW player, we've gotten very conditioned to having them, but overall, flying mounts have been a huge blocker for developers because you can just circumvent the concept by just flying over everything. And then as an environmental artists, why put all this effort in the land when people just fly over it? Right? Like, why are you putting so much attention to detail when people are just going to fly up in the air and just completely fly over and all they just see is trees? You know what I mean? So it doesn't give any incentives to the environmental artists. It doesn't give any incentives to make more creative quests and everything like that. It's flying mounts, I think, kind of destroyed a lot of the ethos of everything. You did? Okay. Let me see how a $25 horse ruined Blizzard Entertainment. Oh my God.
The cat.
All right, so this is an 11-minute video. Oh wow, it's actually by oh my God, this guy has only 967 subs. He has 208,000 views. Holy crap, this video popped off for him. Good for him, man. Let me see. You can get glider mounts though. Well, and I think glider mounts, again, you don't have, like, if you want to go to a certain point, right? Yes, you can get a glider mount. But again, a glider mount ain't going to do what a free moving flying mount is going to do, right? Personally, I don't want them at all, but I know MMO gamers nowadays won't play a new MMO if they don't have flying mounts. Well, again, flying mounts in Ashes are going to be extraordinarily rare. A gliding mount, there's a lot of people that want the gliding mounts that are in Guild Wars 2, but I don't know if that's something that I actually want for Ashes personally. I do like the fact that a mount can glide, right? But to have so much laterality to bypass entire content or just like whatever, right? Like, again, it's very convenient to have a flying mount or a gliding mount. Like, that's why you get it, right? Because it's just the amount of convenience that it offers is just immeasurable. But I feel like you just also circumvent a lot of the content from just gliding or flying, right? So let me see. That's why Guild Wars 2 is great at mounts. Even flying mounts make worlds look great, and the world is big. Yeah, I mean, I think if we can try our best to get to where Guild Wars 2 is, I think it'd be a huge boon. I want something like the Goblin Glider that can be crafted, and that is it. Yeah, the Goblin Glider, I think, is a great compromise because, again, it's just it glides. There's no making it faster or slower or whatever. It just, again, it allows you to go to a really high peak and then just glide your way down, right? Like, I understand the entire like focus on it. But here, let's watch this video. I'm really curious as to what this video is about.
The cataclysmic downfall of Blizzard Entertainment is very well known. When you look through the many blunders of modern Blizzard, you see mistake after mistake. But if you track this back to the beginning, there is one specific choice, one particular horse, that ushered in the beginning of the end. Like a horseman of the apocalypse, whose appearance was the start of a butterfly effect chain reaction that would bring upon the demise of one of the most revered companies in gaming. In 2008, Wrath of the Lich King had released, and is seen as one of the best WoW expansions of all time. Funny enough, in 2008, Blizzard was also acquired by everyone's favorite company, Activision. Interesting that the best WoW expansions are usually seen as the ones developed immediately before Activision was in the picture. By some cosmic coincidence, less than 1 year later in 2009, Blizzard would start selling the very first virtual items for World of Warcraft.
Yep.
WoW had launched in 2004 and had operated for years with no microtransactions. Give it 1 year with Activision vaguely in the picture, and suddenly store pets are popping up.
Yep.
There's no way these two things could possibly be related. The pet store had been announced, and the feedback was very negative. The Pandaren Monk pet and the little KT pet would be available for $10 each. The catch was that half of the proceeds from the sales of one of these pets would be donated to charity. For many players, this softened the blow of the introduction of microtransactions.
So did you guys know, when you go to a store like, I worked at Walgreens for a long time. When you go to a store like Walgreens or Target or whatever, and they're doing like certain charities to like the American Red Cross Association or diabetes or cancer or whatever the case is, did you know that you're basically not donating to those organizations? You're just paying back the company because they already donated like the proceeds to it. Like Walgreens, if they're doing something for the American Red Cross company, they already donated to them. Like now they're just asking you for their money back. Did you know that? Just wanted people to be aware of that. Next time you go and you're trying to contribute to charity.
Actions to the game. It made the initial feedback a little mixed, because it's hard to criticize a company who is going to donate to charity. That said, players immediately found it strange that only part of the sales of one of the pets would be donated. They felt that this was a calculated decision to introduce microtransactions while hiding behind charity to dodge criticism. The users that called out Blizzard for hiding behind charity to ultimately make more money were often insulted by other players for not wanting to help a charity. It is a very smart move for a company to introduce microtransactions like this, because criticizing it becomes much more difficult. Side note, this video is not monetized. I don't like the idea of criticizing a donation to charity and profiting from it in any way. If this video does eventually generate any money, I will donate 100% of it to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. With that said, Blizzard had sneakily introduced the idea of paying for in-game items despite you already paying a monthly fee. Thank you, Blizzard. Considered normal now, but just over a decade ago, this was seen as greedy and a betrayal by Blizzard. Traitor! How fast things change. With the huge profit of selling virtual items, Blizzard would surely never do it again. In March of 2010, 2 new items were data mined, Little XT and this starry horse. Players were excited to learn how to get these new items and were trying to figure out where they would drop in-game. 1 month later, Blizzard would announce the method to get these new items. Use pickpocket on your mom's purse, loot her credit card, and submit that information in the Blizzard store. The mount had a 100% drop rate. Players were upset. God. The amount of forum posts you can find about this from 2010 is incredible. $25, even more than the monthly subscription fee. The mount also happened to aesthetically fit the theme of Ulduar and in-game raid at the time, almost as if it should have just been a drop in the raid. This was seen again as a greedy move and a step in the wrong direction.
And it probably, from the developer's point of view, was designed to be a drop in Uldar. But again, just what I was talking about yesterday, is that it's not the developers, right? The developers like Corey aren't scheming there like, ha, 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 we're making this for the cash shop. Ha, ha, ha. Like it's the bosses. It's the upper management of these companies that make those decisions. Like as a person that's like environmental artist or someone that is, you know, like just working at the ground level, you know, on foundational systems and everything like that, they have no control as if, you know, if it's some decision on high from like the C-suite or the council or even their boss to say, hey, that thing that you made for to be a drop in that one boss, we actually are just going to move it to the cash store. And they're like, what? Okay, I guess, you know, it's in the same way. It's like some of the developers are probably equally as disappointed, but it's par for the course. They have no control. They can't say, no, like I don't want you to put, it's like, they have no say so, you know what I mean? And this is why these companies are just hemorrhaging developers. And there's some developers that feel like caught in the crosshairs of like, man, well, I was like, where do I go? You know, right now the job market's, it's hard, man. Like it's not, there's so many layoffs that have been occurring and happening lately. And again, to have that feeling of job security, not many people have that feeling. You know, everybody's just worried. Like, am I next on the chopping block? Am I just going to get some automated email at 8 a.m. to say to get my stuff and leave? You know, I'm no longer needed at this company. And so, yeah, like it's very unfortunate. Like, and I know people always want to blame the devs, right? The devs, dude, the devs have absolutely nothing to do with any of this decision making. This is all like when people blame like Bobby Kotick, that's a person to blame. The people at the top, those are the people making these dumbass decisions.
Direction for Blizzard. Players vowed they would not buy this mount. It made $2 million in the first 4 hours. This was pure profit, considering how easy it is for a developer to make something like this. Knowing Blizzard, this was probably a job for an intern. There was a queue of over 140,000 people to purchase the Celestial Steed on release. According to Jason Hall, an ex-Blizzard employee, the profit that Blizzard received from this single store mount was greater than the profit from StarCraft 2.
Yeah, here's the biggest sadness, dude. I worked 2 years of overtime straight on StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty. StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty made less money than the horse, the first Sparkle Pony horse in World of Warcraft.
This is because it takes a lot of money to make a game. It takes almost no...
Like that. And again, this decision not only trickled out from Activision Blizzard, but to every other major gaming company to start doing the exact same thing. It's free money. You make a digital asset, that's it, you're good. And now all these companies are trying to replicate that same success. And some companies are succeeding. Again, you have people can go and complain about Diablo 4 all they want. The fact of the matter is that game made $1.3 billion. And that was just from the box sales. And then you go and think of Diablo Immortal. That game makes millions of dollars per day. Per day. They don't need millions of players to play that game and to make bank and profit. All they need is like 3 to 5% of whales to keep playing that game, to fight over one another, to make them profit. They're min-maxing the system, guys. You think you're a min-maxer in game? Bro, you don't even know the first thing. They are the min-maxers of profits, of profiteering. 100%. Let me see. Prison X13, thank you so much for the follow, dude. Thank you. And welcome to the stream, dude. Hope you're having a good time.
No money to make one cosmetic item in a game. One of those things carries a lot of risk, and the other carries no risk at all. As of now, there have been 28 different mounts on the Blizzard store.
See, WoW introduced these mounts and pets. If the quality of the overall game stayed good, no one would have really cared. Since the quality of the WoW content, declined and the mounts and pets increased, that was the issue. For Ashes to not fall into the same trap, the Ashes content has to stay great alongside the microtransactions. Learn from the lessons. Yeah, I think that was the thing too. Cataclysm was also seen as a step down in quality from a lot of the previous expansions. And then Mist of Pandaria, you know, at the time it was like, okay, it feels like we're getting back. But golly, dude, now looking at where we are expansion wise, I would love to have another Mist of Pandaria content wise. There was a shit ton of content in Mist of Pandaria. There was 4 major patches. Now you get 2 major patches in an expansion and then you get a faded patch. What the hell is a faded patch? Oh, let me tell you what a faded patch is. It's literally redoing the first and second patch again, but different. Bro, really? Like, that's what we're doing now? We're recycling the same content we just did a year ago? Bro, like, I don't know. I actually did like MOP 2. Like, I love, dude, I still have, you want to see a blast from the past? All right. I don't think I've ever shown you guys this. This will be interesting to show you guys. So I used to make WoW content from way back in the day. All right. Dude, this is wild. I can't believe I'm going to show you guys this. So this is my old YouTube channel. I used to do WoW content from back in the day. This is WoW 5.4.7 Survival Hunter DPS / rotation. This was with Mr. Pandaria.
Hey guys, this is Lion of Judah from the Guild 7 from Thunder Horde server. This is going to be my rotation forth with it. It's actually
this is old,
so
dude.
Uber overpowered. But today I did want to go over a little bit of.
I was a very, very good hunter. I played survival from Burning Crusade all the way to Warlords of Draenor. I had all of the best gear. I had the cloak. I knew my rotation very, very well. This video had like, I think like 58,000 views. Cause I basically, like, back in the day, like, I just showed people like, this is my rotation. This is how I do stuff. This is like what I do or whatever. But yeah, this was old video of mine
with and how to open up with a hunter.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny. Like I haven't I haven't showed anybody all that kind of stuff. It's kind of interesting. If you didn't play the first 2 patches, it's good. But if you didn't, it's a sleeper as hell. Well, I guess like for people that come in at the very final patch that didn't experience the first and second major patch, I guess it can be considered good, but I still consider it lazy. Like, that's the thing. Like, I don't like the every patch makes the previous patch irrelevant. I don't like that in WoW. Like, it makes me kind of sad that that's the case, where you basically play a patch and not an expansion. You're not playing the expansion at that point. You're playing a patch. So it's just different, I guess.
Store, as well as 23 pets, 5 in-game toys, and a bunch of transmogs. Like a horseman of the apocalypse, the celestial steed had ushered in the beginning of the end. Blizzard had realized the incredible profit available through microtransactions, and as we now know, Blizzard would never be the same. There has not been one game from Blizzard since that has not involved microtransactions in some way. It's difficult to imagine how these business practices could get more predatory. Luckily for us, this video is about Blizzard. So of course, they found a way. Overwatch released in May of 2016 and cost $40 on release. That's a cheap price for a full game. Do you know what's an even better way to make money off of your loyal fans than selling them content for a game that they already paid for? Don't sell them a cosmetic that they want. Sell them the chance at a cosmetic that they want. The main way to unlock things in-game was via loot boxes, a great way to introduce kids to gambling. Blizzard.
This, to me, should be illegal. Why isn't this illegal? If you are creating a game that is T for teens, loot boxes should not even be an option in that game at all. If you then want to rate the game mature, because again, it has like major acts of violence, blood and gore, gambling should be considered as just as bad as blood and gore and sex or nudity. Like it's probably worse. So how you get a rating T for teens when you're literally also promoting and incentivizing gambling is just beyond me. Like I literally don't understand. And Asmongold has said this like so many times. It baffles my brain that we are still in this kind of time period where kids are gambling, like essentially. Like it's wild.
Blizzard would give you some free spins on the slot machine, of course. This way you can microdose the rush of flushing your money away at a casino. You can really experience what it feels like to be a rat in a Skinner box. Thank you, Blizzard. The good thing about Overwatch was that you did earn free slot machine spins relatively fast. This meant that you could, eventually, get the cosmetics that you wanted for free. Blizzard realized their mistake here.
Oh no!
The game was later re-released, a 2 was put after the name, a battle pass was added, and was heavily monetized. Again,
God.
Thank you, Blizzard.
Dude, I said yesterday, I feel so bad for the Overwatch community. Like, it has to feel like completely, you know that meme where you have like the daughter and the daughter and the mother in the pool, and she's like holding the daughter, and then you have the other daughter that looks like she's kind of semi-drowning. That isn't even the Overwatch community. There's the other meme next to it where it's like a skeleton at the bottom of the freaking ocean. That is the Overwatch community. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, how could you even want to play Overwatch at this point? Like, you would have to feel so defeated at this point. It almost feels like, I don't even know, man. It just has to feel disgusting.
Blizzard already had Hearthstone available, which was, of course, free to play with a microtransaction system. It was hugely successful, and Blizzard learned from this. Fans had been waiting desperately for a new Diablo game, and Blizzard would deliver. They moved the action RPG to mobile, which is how everyone prefers to play fast-paced action games. What a coincidence, the mobile market is also hugely profitable. It could cost up to $110,000 to fully gear up in Diablo Immortal.
Absolutely.
Of course, this doesn't mean that it's pay to win or anything like that. You could do this for free. It would only cost you about 10 years. The best thing about Diablo Immortal was this incredible moment from BlizzCon.
We don't have
Well, and the fact is that Diablo Immortal, like I was saying with the WoW expansions, you play the patch. In Diablo Immortal, you play the season. Once that season is over, you don't just pay $110,000 to get all the best gear forever. Oh, no. You spend $110,000 to get the best gear in that season. Once the next season comes out, you're spending another $110,000. Mark my words.
have any plans at the moment to do PC. Do you guys not have phones?
Yeah, you guys all have phones, right?
As it would turn out, they did in fact have phones. Diablo Immortal generated over $500 million in its first year, well over.
This also goes to show you how a community overall could be so pissed off. So, like, Diablo Immortal in most people's eyes should have made $3, right? It should have made less than $50,000, because you would think at this point, this moment was so viral, people were so pissed off at Blizzard that this game should have made no money, right? That just goes to show you that you can literally almost make a joke out of your own community and they'll still come back, because they did.
1 million per day.
What?
Of course, Blizzard would eventually release Diablo 4 for console and PC in June of 2023. The game featured a battle pass and in-game store. If you didn't know any better, you might think that's reasonable. A free-to-play game tends to have features like this. But thankfully, you do know better, because we're talking about Blizzard.
No.
Diablo 4 is a full-price game with a full-price tag. You pay Blizzard for the privilege of being able to pay them even more using their in-game store. While you're in there, you may as well pick up the Battle Pass too. Oh, and try not to make eye contact with the $65 horse. Inflation really hit Blizzard hard. In true Activision Blizzard fashion, there's some sneaky marketing happening.
Can't you get invincible in the Lich King helm in Diablo 4 now? Like, isn't there some kind of crossover with World of Warcraft and Diablo 4? Gamers nowadays are just crabs in a pot of boiling water, pulling anyone that is trying to get back out into the water. Yeah, basically. But I just remember everybody being so vitriolic and just hateful and thinking, oh, Blizzard's a dead company. Blizzard ain't going to do anything. Blizzard's dying. Blizzard doesn't make good games. And then guess what happens, guys? Record profits for Diablo Immortal. Record profits for Diablo 4. Where were you guys at Oh, so you basically just talked all this crap and still bought the product. Got it. Just making sure.
Happening here too. See, the horse mount is
Way to
not
protest,
actually
guys.
$65. It is a bundle where you get the horse mount plus about $65 of in-game currency. This is another marketing trick. Players will see this and think this is a free horse mount because you do also get $65 of currency. However, the statement is still true. To get this horse, you must pay $65 on top of what you already paid for the game. Activision Blizzard excels at these shady marketing tactics. For context, Larian Studios released Baldur's Gate 3, an incredible game that is complete. No microtransactions to be seen for $10 less. To be clear, the Diablo 4 horse costs $5 more than Baldur's Gate 3. Blizzard's manipulative tactics to squeeze every dollar out of their fans shows no signs of slowing down. Warcraft Rumble, their latest mobile game, is built completely around this system. It looks kind of like a slot machine because it practically is one. This game is what you get when a company learns about dark patterns online and decides to do an any percent speed run of exploiting their fans. The online PvP starts off with a level cap, so when you play against other players, your armies are usually the same level. As you rank up, this cap gets higher and is quickly removed completely. This means that the ranked matchmaking can put you against players whose units are at a higher level and therefore stronger than yours. It is literally pay to win. The bigger wallet wins. By the time this becomes obvious to the player, they have already invested a significant amount of time and probably money. This is unfortunately common in this type of game. This does not make this practice acceptable. Exploiting someone is not acceptable just because someone else exploited them first. The Blizzard that exists today is clearly not the same Blizzard that made some of my favorite games. And it literally isn't. The people who made the company what it was and made the games what they were aren't there anymore. I intentionally didn't cover the Warcraft 3 Reforged issue because this video would be at least an hour long. While the downfall of Blizzard is well known, and Blizzard has certainly fallen in the eyes of their fans, to the shareholder, Activision Blizzard is doing better than ever. The manipulative business
Jeff Kaplan, I feel like if he was still there, Overwatch would be in a whole different spot. But again, even Jeff being more of a senior role couldn't win against the direction that they wanted to put Overwatch into. And that's why he left. It's very clear why he left. He was passionate. This was his baby. Overwatch 2 was his baby. They were bastardizing it. They were literally corrupting Overwatch. And he was powerless. Even being the creative director, doing all the stuff he wanted to do, he didn't have the final decision on a lot of the monetary practices that they were wanting to do for Overwatch. And he probably just realized, I can't do this. I can't go into interviews with these gamers that are very passionate for this game and spiel lies and say, well, we thought microtransactions for our PvE maps was a good direction because of yada, yada, yada. We thought splitting it up or making, these decisions, like he probably just couldn't stomach it. And he's like, I can't do this. I'm leaving. It's sad, but I'm pretty sure that was the real reality of what happened to Jeff Kaplan.
Tactics of recent years are not blunders of an old company. They are intentional design choices of a new one. Making great games is not the goal after all. The goal is to make money, and they are doing exactly that. In quarter 2 of 2022, mobile...
But I'll tell you this, and this is one of the biggest and main reasons, and I believe all of you guys can agree with me, is that it all starts with the head. It all starts with the person at the top of the company. And when I heard Steven... when he talked to Asmongold back in 2020, and I thought to myself, wow, this is the CEO of Intrepid, of Ashes of Creation. Oh my God. He thinks like a gamer. And this is why, like, Sven, who's the head of Larian Studios, this is why his principles and why his certain directions, because it all stems from his mindset. It all stems from good old Bobby's world. Yeah, dude, we're just rats in a maze, dude, just living in Bobby's world, man. But it's one of those things where if the head of the company is talking a certain way, the people under have to follow. And that's why I think Larian saw the success from Baldur's Gate 3. This is why I also think Steven and Intrepid are going to see the same success from Ashes of Creation, is because Steven has the gamer mindset of what feels good as a gamer, and not what's going to feel good for our profit margins, what's going to feel good for our quarterly reports, what's going to feel good to our C-suite and to our shareholders. Like, that's not even in a conversation, right? Everything at the heart of what Intrepid is doing is all towards the gamer. It's the same thing of why I think a lot of indies and even a person or a company like Larian are doing so well. Is because they're being gamer focused and not profit focused. All this video is showcasing you. We're literally seeing a profit report right now. This is what it's all about. This right here is what gaming companies are all about. They're not looking for your smile on your face when you enter into a particular system and how you engage with it. They are interested in this report. This is the only thing they are interested in. Sad.
Was 51% of Activision Blizzard's quarterly earnings. The largest contributor was King, the Candy
from
Crush
software
company.
as well.
King has generated over $20 billion in revenue from Candy Crush alone. For comparison, the entire lifetime revenue of the StarCraft franchise is just over $1 billion. In short, don't expect a StarCraft 3, but do expect a mobile game drowning in microtransactions. When you think of an amazing game, you might think of Warcraft 3, early World of Warcraft, or Baldur's Gate 3. When a shareholder thinks of an amazing game, they think of Candy Crush and the ridiculous return on investment. I do want to stress this is not the fault of the average employee at Blizzard. Most people who want to work at Blizzard likely do it because of a passion for Blizzard games. Unfortunately, these people don't lead the company. They suffer at the hands of those who do. It's important to keep in mind that the average employee is probably just trying to do their best, and they don't deserve to be blamed for the greed of those at the top. Blizzard still exists by name alone. The logo is the same, the name is the same, but that's it. It is the end of an era, and that era started to end a long time ago, when the first Horseman appeared.
Wow. This was a great video. Holy shit.
Earnings.
Guys, I'm going to link you this video. Give it a like. Give it a comment. Watch it again if you want to in your spare time. That was a banger video. Thank you so much for sharing that video. This is the thing too, guys. Like, there's many reasons why I can't just do the Blizzard thing anymore. And this is why I'm grateful of why like Ashes is finally like on the cusp. Like we're almost there. And Corey, dude, I just want to thank all the developers that are working really hard to lead us into Alpha 2. I know you guys have been working around the clock. Crunch is not a pretty thing. It can be very stressful at times. But I really appreciate you guys' just work ethic and passion to bring us the Alpha 2 as fast as humanly possible. And as polished, hopefully, as possible, right? Like, I know there's a lot that hinges to making this this Alpha 2 a success. But to me, it's like I look at this video and I get really depressed because that is the realistic state of the MMO, or not even just MMO, but the gaming industry at large. This video really showcased how influential microtransactions are, how big, cash shops, battle passes, like all this stuff. Just, you can see right after Jeff left, Ghostcrawler became lead systems designer. Jeff left. Jeff Kaplan left very recently, within the past couple of years. Ghostcrawler left back in 2014. Yeah, Jeff left WoW. Yeah, he left WoW like a couple of years ago, but Ghostcrawler he became lead systems designer like way back when, and he left from Riot, I think, back in like 2014. No, Jeff left after Warlords Joiner, early Warlord. But he didn't leave Blizzard. You're talking like he left WoW to then go to Overwatch, right? Is that what you guys are talking about? Okay, I wanted to be clear because I was like, but Jeff didn't leave Blizzard. Like I was just, yeah, he left WoW. Yes. Just we're all on the same page now. Gotcha. But yeah, like microtransactions is literally the thing you're never going to escape. And I think this is why you have Ashes of Creation being this sort of bastion of hope for people. It's just, you know, you have games that had hope, right? Like I know PAX Day early on when people saw the first video were like, oh man, there's another MMO that's going to come out and blah, blah, blah. But then I think of like Throne of Liberty. I think of Quinfall. I think of Chrono Odyssey. All of these games have microtransactions. All of these games are going to have pay to win. All of these games are going to have egregious cash shops. So why am I going to get excited for any of these games? Like, why am I going to look at these games and be like, oh yes, like God, another MMO is going to come out that's literally going to be infested with cash shop microtransactions. That's probably going to be, you know, completely gated and completely, or like pay gated or paywalled, or, you know what I mean? The experience is going to feel less than because it's just, again, they're trying to focus on that spreadsheet, right? They're trying to focus on this spreadsheet right here. Like that's what I don't want, but that's just the reality of what's going to happen. Right. Burns, dude, what's going on, man? Don't you guys have phones? Yeah. I have my phone right here. Got it right there. Oh, did my wife text me? Oh, thank God. Sorry, my wife just texted me. They landed. Oh. Oh, so she got her own seat. Oh, that makes me happy. I was so worried about my baby traveling because like I don't like airplanes because of the cabin pressure. Like I have to constantly chew gum because that pressure in my head I don't like it. I hate it after a while. And I was just really worried about my baby because it's like, you know, she's not going to be able to like chew gum. So there was like a couple of different things that people suggested to do, which is like have them suck on a pacifier or have them drink a bottle or something like that. But she landed, she did great on the plane. She didn't cry at all. So that makes me happy. Ghostcrawler, why talk to people and have a journey to a dungeon when we can just auto group you, teleport you straight to the entrance? Let's also add random dungeons. Yeah, I don't really have a faith in their in Ghostcrawler's MMO, the Ghost MMO. Everything that they've said so far, he literally wants to make like a super theme parky game. He wants everything to be very convenient. Like very, very, very convenient. Like everything about his game just screams Palia. Like I would say he is making the combat version of Palia. So I don't know. Like to me, it just doesn't really seem like an MMORPG yet. And everything that I've heard about it so far, it doesn't really give me hope that that'll be the MMO that I'll play. So I don't know. The more games have in common with WoW, the more they're in direct competition with WoW. Yeah. And I think that's also the biggest thing too, because WoW, I mean, whether we talk crap about WoW or not, WoW is still one of the biggest MMORPG like on the planet. Like WoW and Final Fantasy 14 are the two juggernauts. I'm glad Ghostcrawler is in charge of the Riot MMO anymore. Whenever they started it back up. Well, a lot of people had faith in Ghostcrawler, but after hearing like what he envisioned for his MMO, I felt like that would have put Riot's MMO in a really bad spot. I don't know. Like, I just think the Riot MMO needs to be different and to appeal to a different kind of audience. Like, I don't know, to keep trying to scrape away at the current audience of like Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. Like, and I think this is why Ashes could be a success in its own right, because it's just so far removed from the current MMORPG model that we're, currently experiencing. So sorry, I just got some news real quick. Grizzlix. Thank you so much for the follow, dude. Thank you, and welcome. I'm glad. Oh yeah, I've said that already. But yeah, I think it's one of those things that we'll definitely have to, keep our eyes on as far as the industry goes. But I'm not really, to be honest, like I'm just not focused on the industry anymore. Like I've talked to all the other content creators about this. Like I don't need to focus on the industry anymore. Like I have a game now that I can focus on, which is Ashes of Creation. Why am I going to try to focus? Like I never wanted to be this variety MMO streamer. I am a one MMO kind of person. I played WoW for 16 years and only World of Warcraft. Did I try other MMOs out? Yes, but I never played them with any kind of a seriousness because WoW was my serious MMO. So for me, I was looking towards the MMO genre because I didn't have a home. Now I do. So I don't really care like really what happens to the genre, but I do in a sense want the genre to become revitalized in a sense. I don't want like World of Warcraft to continue to deteriorate, Final Fantasy to continue to deteriorate, because then Ashes will then suffer from all of that as well, right? So I want the MMO genre to be, not on life support, but getting better. And so that way Ashes in the future can still be doing really, really well. In my opinion, AOC needs to cater more to the DAOC and Warhammer MMO player over the WoW player. Oh, yeah. I do think so too. I think, again, I think a lot of people are just afraid because they hear the concept for this MMORPG, which is Ashes Creation, and people think it's too niche. I don't think it's too niche, to be honest with you. I think it's too niche in the sense of if you're a WoW player and only been a WoW player and that's all you know, this could seem like a very niche MMO. But I think to a lot of the old school MMO players, right? I think this could actually be a very successful MMO worldwide. I really do think so. It is very scary though. Let me see. Sumo Mick. Thank you so much for the follow, dude. Thank you, and welcome. Ashes will hopefully be my first real MMO. I only played WoW on and off through the years. Really? Well, dude, I think, I've been playing WoW for 16 years myself. I cannot wait to play Ashes of Creation. My wife, who isn't an MMO player at all, she's tried World of Warcraft and Classic World of Warcraft. The best experience she had was actually in Classic WoW. Those are her words, not mine. Only because it was slower paced and she was able to understand her class way more and the zones. In retail, she didn't like it so much because she felt constantly bombarded with new stuff and new information, new spells, new levels so fast that she could not understand. Like she was constantly lost, or she was asking me way more questions. She got the grip of Classic WoW way better, and she actually enjoyed that experience way better. And this is for like a brand new person who hasn't really played an MMORPG. So can Ashes facilitate a new player experience? Maybe. But I think brand new players are going to have to be sort of handheld by like YouTube videos, by guides, by people like myself to explain like to a new person like how they can enjoy Ashes of Creation from the first for the first 10 levels, because I think Ashes could actually Ashes could give an issue in the sense of where you are overwhelmed, just like my wife was with retail. I mean, you say retail is so bloated. Ashes could be as I think if you look at it juxtaposed to how many systems are in Ashes of Creation that you need to understand as a player comparing to World of Warcraft, Ashes is way more bloated than World of Warcraft is at a foundational level. So to me, this is why I'm very passionate about the intro experience of of Ashes of Creation, because if they can slowly roll out systems in a way that doesn't overwhelm players and in a way that gets them to understand these systems, great. But if Ashes can't do that because there's so much they have to introduce right off the start, then I could see new players being very overburdened with information that they feel like they have to know. And then it's just like, I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't understand it. I'm just going to go somewhere else. Right. So I'm old. I started playing MMOs back in 1999 with EverQuest 1. And personally, I just want an MMO that is that old school feel with just the modern graphics. Well, I mean, I think Ashes is going to be that blend of the old school philosophies with newer principled graphics and, systems. And again, everything that I've seen from Ashes of Creation stems from that old school play style, right? Like slow leveling, experience debt, risk versus reward, meaningful progression paths. Like all that is from old MMOs. Like everything now feels like a fast food restaurant. It feels like a drive-through. Like everything is just instantaneous. You can do in 5 minutes, get in, get out. Like that's what MMOs are now. They want you to play for 30 minutes and be able to do all of this content within 30 minutes. And that's it. But if you go back and play an old school classic MMO, you might be able to get one thing done in 30 minutes. Maybe if you want to do a dungeon, it'll take you 30 minutes to even get a group going before you even enter that dungeon. Right. So if you're going to play classic WoW and you're going to do Shadowfang Keep and you're level 22, it might take you 30 minutes to find your group, let alone go through the entire Shadowfang Keep dungeon. So that one activity that you're wanting to do might take you 2.5 hours. That's an old school mentality. Now you want to queue into a dungeon. You can queue into a dungeon by insta queuing, going into, like, if you want to be a tanker or healer, go into a dungeon almost instantly, do the dungeon within like 10, 15 minutes and you're out. That is the new experience compared to what I just explained from the classic experience. It'll be important for a gameplay loop to introduce the systems over time. Can't jump into everything right away. Yeah, completely agree. This is why, again, I'm very passionate about the intro experience for Ashes of Creation, because I really don't want there to be this overburdening of systems. But the main system you got to introduce right off the bat is the node system. The node system the node system, profession system. Those are the two systems that I think you should be introduced to within the first 10 levels. Right. And then, of course, your class system, your talent tree and all that other stuff. But I think those are the couple of systems that you should focus on now, like naval, buildings, mayorship, node types, all that stuff. Yes, you can give like a broad overview, but I think it should be very much simplistically explained into like how a node levels, the different tiers of those, what is offered. All of that could easily just be explained in game. Through, a quest or through certain other things. I mean, I don't know. It just depends. Let me see. AMA question. What kind of plans does Intrepid Studios have for a tutorial system for players with explained all of the complex intertwined systems, and how do they plan to keep that information always available and up to date inside the game? That's a very good question. Here, I'll get my notepad out. Where is... I'll put this under the Steven question. There you go. Just so you can see. I have your question right here. This is the questions that I have for Steven for my 1v1 with him. So that can definitely be something that I can ask him. Yeah, I don't want a tutorial island. I don't think Intrepid is going to do a type of tutorial island. But I think if you are going to have a tutorial, the first quest or like the first like 2 minutes of you in game should ask you, would you like a tutorial? Yes or no. And if you say no, then you shouldn't have to be burdened with one, right? And then you can always still have the option as you're progressing or doing stuff. If you want to turn on the tutorial and you're like, I don't need tutorial, but then you realize, oh shit, there's actually a lot to this. Then you can turn the tutorial back on and it'll start like giving you like certain bits of information, right? Like as you're exploring, as you're doing stuff, right? That's the way I think Intrepid should implement a kind of tutorial system. And I know most people say, oh, don't hold people's hands or whatever. But again, you have to understand in this day and age, if you don't want your hand held, then just hit no. And you won't have your hand held. But I don't like the fact of gatekeeping other people. Like someone like my wife. My wife will need her hand held. She doesn't play MMORPGs. And then you might say, well, your wife, this game is not meant for her then. Well, so you're saying that this person shouldn't even try it because they're a brand new player that should go play something else first to see if they're even going to like MMOs? Like, I think that's kind of unfair. So I think if you are a new player or even coming back as an existing MMO player but haven't played an MMO in a long time, I think a tutorial should be an option given to you right off the bat and then go from there. But I don't think the first couple of quests should feel like a tutorial, if that makes any sense, right? Like, you just playing the game is going to feel like a tutorial already, right? Pushing buttons and everything like that. So, but yes, I think all of us can agree we don't want like a tutorial island kind of thing. Let me see. I loved Altered Valley when WoW first released. It lasted a week. I could go play it, go to bed, re-enter. The same battleground is still going on. Yeah, I know. A lot of cool stuff back in Classic. Here, give me 1 second, guys. I got to go use the bathroom again. Give me 2 seconds. I'm back. Sorry, I had to use the bathroom. All right. Let me see. Being in another world instance, let me see, from actual players makes it feel so very gamey. Also, tutorial islands require you to front load a bunch of info. Meanwhile, you had the tutorials in the actual world. It can be paced out gradually. Exactly. And that's what I mean, right? Like, so when there's like a new point of interest occur, if you have tutorials on, it can say like, oh, do you know what just happened? A node leveled from like 0, which is wilderness, to level 1 and like it's that kind of thing. And then give kind of like a little tutorial explanation as to like, this is what happens in this game. Like, there's a node system, there's this, there's that, or whatever. So I think because of how dense this game is, you need some kind of a mechanism to show brand new players like what this game is all about, if they want it, right? Now, a player could have watched like a 30, 40, an hour long video beforehand before they even started playing Ashes of Creation from a creator like myself, like Rive Genesis, like Stiquino, like Warrior, like a whole bunch of other content creators, right? And they don't need a tutorial island because they just watched a whole video on what this game is about and they like it, they want to do it, so that's what it is. Instead of a tutorial, it might be better to have an adventure guide or info guide in the menus so you can look up statuses and effects. Yeah, I think that also should be in the game as well. But because of how naturally evolving this game is, most other MMOs are static. And what I mean by static is points of interest don't change, towns don't change, main cities don't change, everything just stays the same. Ashes is not that kind of game. Everything naturally has an evolution to it. There's seasons in this game. There's day and night cycles. Like, I think having some kind of tutorial that just shows like, oh, do you see the it just went into dusk. You know what I mean? This game has night cycles, you know what I mean? Or day and night cycles. And it kind of just gives, like, every time something happens, if you have tutorials on, it just has like a little box that pops up that says like what is going on and why the game does what it does. Like, I don't think that's a bad idea, but also having like an actual menu, like a help guide of like, what is, how like we're watching The Bard and people are like, oh, what is humiliated? What does that status effect do? Oh, well then I can open up the help guide type in the search box humiliated, and it'll give me what humiliated debuff is and the definition of it. Like that should also be in the game too, 100%. Let me see. Northshire Abbey and Valley of the Trials are perfect tutorials. Yeah, Valley of Trials, like I said, I mean, I was an orc. I played every time I played Classic WoW was always an orc. So I think, again, people will naturally learn just by pushing buttons. Let me see. It's crazy to think that every server will have its own story due to the choices of the players. Yeah, I know. Which is why I think for certain players, having a tutorial will actually be really, really good. I want this in game. Open skill tree. I'll left click on it to lock the selection, so you can read the skills. Don't let it just be a pop-up. If it does affect like burn, sleep, stagger, you can click on the effect and have an in-game PDF pop-up with an explanation of it. Sorry, I'm hungry. Yeah, I know. I want it too. And this is, again, like all of the stuff that I'm going to be doing YouTube wise is all going to be idea and feedback on systems. My feedback on the intro experience, my feedback on, tutorials, my feedback on this, my feedback on that. I forgot to eat my donut because I bought it this morning, but I went to stream and I didn't eat it. So you're going to see me eat a donut. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I want to ask Steven, but I also feel like playing the game is going to naturally answer a lot of questions for me, and then raise other questions that I don't even know yet, because I am not playing the game. And so once I get in there and actually start playing, I can start figuring stuff out for myself. That's going to be the feedback that I'm going to start leaving down and be like, why does this feel awkward? Like, why do I feel lost? I shouldn't feel lost. What is making me feel lost? Because if I, a veteran of MMO player or a veteran of MMOs that understands MMOs, if I'm feeling lost at level 7, I am probably not alone as to what I should do. And this is where maybe there's a tutorial. It's like, okay, well, you kind of finished all of the stuff in here. Now there's a whole world for you to explore. Go discover new areas. Go discover, new quests. Go discover new node areas. And, and that's it. That's like maybe the end of the tutorial, right? So like maybe at level 7, the game naturally just forces you to move, right? Go do stuff. Like, I think you completed everything you needed to do in this area. Go find more stuff to do elsewhere. Just showing what we've been talking about. Oh, we've been talking about a whole bunch of shit. But currently we're talking about testing. Let me see. We need a tutorial island for learning about upgrading status effects. You don't need a tutorial island. You just need a tutorial. Donut. It's really good. The donut shop by my house is really goated. They make fresh donuts every day at 5 a.m. Okay. I'm probably going to have to eat some actual food soon because I'm getting hungry. Okay. Yeah, how long have I been streaming? Damn, I've been streaming for 3 hours? Holy shit. Introduction to Ashes of Creation / tutorial and how it would make newer gamers feel in a beginning when they know nothing about the game. Yeah. Let me see. What about a death summary? When you die, it shows you what damaged you, the type of damage, how long you were in combat, how long you were CC'd, healing received, etc. I mean, a damage log could actually show you all that. Like if it was like a little toast animation that says you have died and this is the damage you took that killed you. This is the class that killed you. I would be fine with that personally. I wouldn't need it. right? I don't need a death log, but I wouldn't mind one. Like I mean, it's if Intrepid wants to do something like that, like I'd be down for it. Aren't the gate arenas like a tutorial island either way? I can think of a gate camp where you make your first steps. Well, I think all of the areas where the gates are going to be surrounded by or the wilderness are where the nodes are going to start leveling. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Like I have not played Alpha 1. I'm not currently playing Alpha 2. So I don't know. Like I don't want to talk about something like I have an idea of what it is when I really don't have any idea. But I hope that's the case. We'll have to wait and see. Hold on real quick. Aw. Oh, look. Ash has just made a tweet right now. Or a little while ago. At 1. What is this? Every archetype could be a key to unlocking the world's mysteries. How do you envision archetypes, such as the Bard, bringing lore to life? Join the dev discussion and see the entire prompt on storytelling with archetypes here. Oh, look, here's Ludaloo. My huge preference for all archetypes is in the context of storytelling and world building is for them to have huge quest chains where we learn how any given archetype influences the world. Personally, I'd love if the class quest was this huge chain where your character is taken to representatives of all archetypes experiencing effects that those archetypes would provide you through their augments, i.e. the mage part of the quest would have a mage NPC teleport somewhere or something like that, and learns the history of the first settlers and how the archetype leaders use their skills to make Vera livable again. In my opinion, that would be the most immersive way to both tell the story of the world being repopulated and to explain the player through in-game means what they could expect if they choose one of the archetypes as their secondary. So I, again, am a huge proponent of class quests. There will be class quests, but I don't know how in depth they're going to be. I personally thought that the class quests from Final Fantasy 14 were some of the best class quests I've ever done in my life. Like people like to talk about the classic WoW class quests, dude. I am sorry. Like I'm a huge WoW player, played it for a long ass time, but Final Fantasy 14's class quests literally punk WoW's class quests in Classic. They don't even stand a chance. The class quest in Final Fantasy 14 is goated. They are so good. Very immersive. Cutscenes, provides you new abilities. It explains class quests like in a way like you have like a leader, like you're basically like a Padawan to a master, right? So like when I was a ninja in Final Fantasy 14, like I had a master that I basically went to that I learned from, like my ninjutsu abilities, and it was just, oh my god, it felt so cool. And I think the reason why it felt really cool is because of the cutscenes. Some of the cutscenes were just really, really cool. I felt like Batman most of the time. EQ had some awesome class quests. Yeah, and I think just taking inspiration from what works, right? And just, I really want class quests to feel like you're earning something. And this is why I think having certain abilities that are just given to you without the talent system. Because I think earning an ability because you completed a chain quest is actually really cool. Just leveling and putting a talent point into a talent system, yeah, okay, that's cool, I guess. But there's just nothing like whenever you are doing your class quests and then now you get like a really awesome, like Exert, I think is a really great example for a fighter. Exert should not be in the skill tree at all. Exert should be an ability you earn through a class quest, because that is your defining ability as a fighter. And same goes with like hunts from a ranger. Hunts should be a part of a class chain quest, right? Those are pivotal towards the ranger. So like it's that kind of thing that I find to be really cool and engaging as a player. Let me see. The Mount Quest and WoW were the only outstanding that I can remember. Really, others, yes, Final Fantasy 14 Quest, I still remember kind of. Yeah, for me, I remember the Final Fantasy 14 Quest really well. Like again, I did some of the class quests in Classic WoW. Like I did the Shaman one for totems. I did the one for rogues, but they're very basic and they weren't fun in my opinion. They were just tasks. But I had fun doing the class quest in Final Fantasy 14, 100%. Let me see, Dola meme stream about PvP stuff with Vlhadus win. Yeah, dude. Hopefully, like once I can get this Steven interview under my belt, dude, I'll start inviting all the people again to my 1v1. Let me see. On recent board games, the class quests give you a special item or skill on your choice /gold. Yes, and that's what I mean. Like I think having certain pivotal skills that is not earned through the talent system, but earned through the chain quest, in my opinion, is a better route. For not all skills. I'm just talking like the defining ones. The ones like, again, Exert is a great example. The hunts from the ranger is another example. What's that one ability from the cleric where what is it? The finale from the bard. What is it called? That one where the dragon breath or whatever. Like that ability, that should not come from the talent tree. That should come from a chain quest that is earned through the class quests. The saga, sorry. Yes, the saga. So that saga should come from a chain quest from the bard, not from the talent system. Let me see. You should slowly learn the 3 stances through the class quest, and then Exert is the last on the chain quest. You are pushed to the brink of death, last breath on your knee. You picture your mom, and now you promise you never come back on your shield. Then you go Super Saiyan. Yeah, that's what I mean, right? Like, and that's what I loved about Final Fantasy 14's class quest, because they actually gave cutscenes, and there was a lot of emotion in a lot of these cutscenes too. And I think it really immerses you into some of these abilities and how you earn these abilities, right? And so I think, again, I think they're foundationally putting a lot of stuff in the talent system because I hope they're trying to get they're trying to get feedback from us, like what we're talking about right now, to better understand, like, yeah, that does sound cool. We should do something like that, right? Like sagas and hunts and Exert and the stances, those things should come from the class quests and not from the talent system. But that also means every fighter will always have Exert, because if they complete their class quests, that is something you earn from your class quests. And again, I'm fine with that. I think there should be some abilities that are just, hey, a fighter, all of them have this thing. All clerics have this ability because it's from the class quest, right? Now, if you just choose not to do your class quest, then you don't have a very major ability on your skill, right? So it kind of, again, almost forces you to do these class quests. But if they're really fun, they're not going to feel forced because they're actually fun to do and fun to accomplish. Let me see. Your class quest should teach you how to play your class. So in Final Fantasy 14, the early class quests, that's exactly what they did. And I think once you hit level 20, you earned your first ability. And then every 10 levels, you earned another ability. So every 10 levels, you earned an ability. Every 5 levels, you learned something more about your class. That's how Final Fantasy did it. And I think they finally discontinued that after level 70. Like, I think Endwalkers, where they finished class quests. Shadowbringers, I think, still had class quests, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. But, yeah. Let me see. You can have the quest just unlock the talent on the tree. Grayed out by default. Complete the quest is now available to add your point. You can still get the same economy. I mean, that'd be fine too. I mean, I just think that there should be certain abilities that are just, like every class has this ability. Like I would be fine with that personally. It doesn't have to be all of them. Just the very pivotal ones, right? Oh, it would be nice if there's more sagas in the world we can collect through class quest lines, and we could select which 4 of them we want to have active and for the actual use. That'd be really cool. Like if you go to your class trainer and there's like 4 sagas you can do, but you can only do 1 chain quest at a time. So then you have to pick and choose like which saga do you want to go for, right? Like I think that would be really interesting. Let me see. I love the rogue class quest in Vanilla WoW. Yeah. I personally didn't. I thought all you were doing was just basically fetch gathering. Like, I never felt like a rogue doing the rogue quests in Classic. I felt like a ninja doing the ninja class quest in Final Fantasy 14. But I also feel like too the class quest in Classic WoW, you know, I don't think they had a lot of time, which is why I felt like they weren't as immersive, right? Let me see. I can't trust you anymore. That class quest ended with no finale. Yeah, I the spirit of what a lot of these class quests did, right? Like the shaman, the rogue, the warrior, that's what I love. Like the fact that there was class quests in Classic WoW, I love that. I didn't really particularly like care for them or have this like very nostalgic, like, oh my God, it was so good. Like they were okay. Like some of them were okay. But again, because I play Final Fantasy 14 and I experienced the class quest in that game, I just think if you were just to compare just the 2 games, WoW and Final Fantasy 14, Final Fantasy 14 has way better class quests. Like way better. They're just really, really, really good. Sorry, I got a bunch of texts from my wife. As a rogue main for the first 3 expansions, I found myself going back to the manor every month, hoping for a new thing to pop up. I would pickpocket mobs, hoping to a new pickpocket unique drop would happen to continue the quest. Nothing. Yeah, I know. And again, it's like I feel like they after Classic WoW, I feel like they just abandoned class quests, which is really unfortunate. But again, it's one of those things where I don't know. Like I want class quests to really feel meaningful and fun. And I think you're going to have to put in, as a developer, a lot of work into just the class quest system. And I don't know if that's going to cause like a kind of scope creep, right? In the sense of like what Intrepid is expecting from those kinds of quests. Because they could do very standardized quests like WoW did back in Classic. Or they can choose to do a little bit more immersive quests like Final Fantasy 14. But Final Fantasy 14 is going to take way more time to do than what you can probably implement in Classic, is my point. So, let me see. My personal way I'd like to see things integrated into the lore would be by diving into the backstory of how/why each came into being, and maybe why these specific schools of combat were the ones that made it to the back to Vera. An example might be for bards. There is a bard college. Maybe there were just keepers of lore, but upon returning to Vera, they find new ways to wield their magic for combat. They set up the bard college to train the returners, and as you level up and do quests, you find out more and more while also unlocking your new abilities and such. As for how it should be integrated into world building, it'd be cool to see some kind of influence in the world for players choosing the main class they chose. Maybe we get a bard guild banners in the streets of the metropolis if there are more bard citizens of that node. Maybe there's some other way it would be represented, like an NPC in the inn that have a recruitment message based on the class archetype is currently the lowest across citizens made for that node, for example. Some kind of world enriching presence. We already have so much representation for the races in the ways the towns and the cities will be influenced, so it only makes sense to me that there would be a minor influence for classes too. I would also love to see some class abilities locked behind lore quests. Same. I know some people might not find that enjoyable, but in my opinion, it always is fun to earn an ability. Yes, completely agree. I know you guys were floating the idea around of having different classes have world affecting abilities for quests as well. Clearing poison, unlocking doors, using specific magics to solve puzzles, pathfinding, etc. That's the other thing too, is the fact that you could even have really awesome utility abilities locked behind lore as well. Like, remember that how mages can uncover doorways? That could be a whole chain, like part of the class chain quest for like unlocking that ability, and why that's important, and how mages discovered that form of magic. Like, that could be really interesting. Let me see, where did I stop reading? Clearing poison, unlocking doors, using specific magics for puzzles, pathfinding, etc. I think it'd be really cool if these abilities were behind a nice long quest chain or lore-related event, or maybe we can just have to purchase them from a trainer. But having the ability to expand our usefulness to a party for group content through hard work sounds awesome. Obviously, we still don't want to let one character be able to do everything, but figured to be close enough to the topic at hand, I'd throw it out there. Yeah, I really like this. Again, I kind of believe the same thing. I think a lot of people really just want class quests to feel immersive and to feel like it's not just some throwaway content, because a lot of the classes or a lot of the class quests from most games just feel like very much throwaway content. They just like, oh, okay, you just do this stuff real quick and then you go get this thing, and it's like, it just feels like a bunch of fetch quests, or it doesn't feel like any kind of a meaningful thing. Like, it's just a means to an end. Like, oh, I need to do this quest to get this ability, or I need this quest to get this utility ability, or whatever, right? Like, I really hope that that's not what Ashes of Creation really does. Right now, the skill tree is broken up into 3 tiers. I think a quest should be required to unlock the new quests. Yeah, to the new tier. Yeah, I mean, that could happen. Like I said, I think there's a lot of iteration that needs to happen with the class trees. Like, the talent system trees, like, I think still need a lot of work. But again, I'm gonna do my best to figure out the best course of action for the talent trees. Let me see. Class quest: Bard perform a song in front of a group of players in a tavern. Ooh, that'd be interesting. The Benediction class quest were in original WoW were great. Also, the Paladin and Warlock mounts. Yeah, the Paladin quest I thought was really cool. I remember doing the Paladin quest to get Resurrection. Back in, you remember doing Burning Crusade and you had to do the class quest to get the resurrection spell for the Paladin? That was really, really cool, man. That's the kind of stuff that I personally like. I like it when there's like a very defining ability that your class has that you earn through doing a quest. Let me see. WoW's Hunter level 10 quest was super boring. That's what I mean, right? Like, overall, a lot of the class quests in WoW felt very dull. There were some class quests that were like really cool, but those to me were very few and far between. Behind nodes, let's say a node has many mages, and then the mayor or the major, or I think you meant the mayor. The mayor has the ability to build a mage's college or something like that to unlock those passives or new skills. Other mages from the other nodes would want to travel there to learn, paying gold to the node for it. Quite interesting the concept, but I guess too much work. I mean, potentially, like my goal when I try to leave feedback is to not create new systems for Intrepid to do, but to work within existing systems. And sometimes that's hard as well, because, when we're trying to do something cool, sometimes it's not present in the game right now. But yeah, Whirlwind Axe for warriors. I did like the what was it, the warrior island that they had back in Classic. That was pretty cool. There's still supposed to be a lengthy quest chain for choosing your secondary class. Yes, and we don't even know how that's going to operate either. Like, I am very curious as to the degree of these when you hit level 25 of earning your secondary archetype and transforming into your true class. I'm so curious as to how all that's going to work, personally. Excuse me. Let me see. A bard should be able to tell teasers of the future lore that will arrive in the future updates, just hints, for example. Ooh, that would be really interesting. They should also be able to tell the lore of the game in a simpler, more concise way so that even those who skip the lore can appreciate it. Interesting. I think there should be some non-skippable cutscenes that gives you a lot of the major beats as to what's happening, but a lot of the more like backstory on certain characters. If you want to skip that, that's fine. But at least you have a basic idea of the story that is unfolding on your server. I think that would be very, very important. Why not? For example, when a bard enters a tavern or another building, the bard character could inform of certain guilds or a person's achievement, such as the first, I think he meant world first, or capture of a castle, the destruction of a metropolis in the world. That would be really interesting. Like if a bard could actually tell a song of the destruction of a certain metropolis that happened on the other continent. So they're on like the eastern continent now, when there was a siege that successfully occurred on the western continent, and they're basically telling like a story of how that occurred. I think that would be really freaking cool. Like if that could happen, but to me that seems like a lot from that end. I actually was helping expand the Ravenhold Manor with quests and stuff for rogues on the private WoW server. I redesigned Rogue 4. It was neat. Sadly, I didn't stick around for completion. Oh, wow, it's crazy. Yeah, I really did like playing WoW Ascension. WoW Ascension to me is a really cool take on WoW. I thought it was really fun. We have different node types. Maybe those buildings could integrate to those different nodes. Military node for warrior stuff, religious for priest, etc., scientific mage, and so on. Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting too. With the bard being more of a supportive buffing character, I feel like we're going to run into problems filling groups with tanks and healers like any MMO. That's why I advocate all the time for healers and tanks, because in other MMOs, there's multiple tank classes. There's multiple healing classes. Ashes has one of each. You need to provide a lot of flexibility and customization with those one classes. And if you don't, I think we're going to be in for... I feel like, especially if you have the DPS classes be more fun, oh man, that's going to be very, 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 very worrisome. Like, I don't know. Like, I do worry about that myself. Let's see. I second having large class quests. Some of the more memorable parts of the other games like WoW brings people in the same class too, feels more connected. Yeah, I could agree with that. You see, my big expectation I don't see as a necessity to be filled is that I like for the tank/cleric paladin or any of the cleric secondaries to have a connection to a faith in their augments. Nothing like game-breaking good or a requirement, but just a cool bonus if you're tied to a faith and hold yourself to it. That'll be interesting. Like I don't think Templars, I think they're high swords. I mean, high swords could be considered to be a Templar, but yeah, paladin belonging to a certain faith. That'd be interesting. Again, I think anytime you can enrich your class more by these smaller ancillary things, to me they might feel ancillary, but to other people it could feel really big, and feel anytime you can create a sense of ownership to your character, that's always good. That's what sticks you to an MMO, is the ownership of your character. If you're not connected to your character, there is a huge chance you're probably just going to treat this as just a game and you're going to leave. But anytime that you develop a connection with this character you've created and you feel like it's really shaping up into the kind of character you've always wanted, that is what's going to keep you to that MMO. As a support player, I actually like that we're quite rare, especially good supports. Yeah, I think as a support player, you are going to be sought after greatly in Ashes of Creation. After seeing the Bard showcase, it's so crazy how much you're going to be needed or influenced. Like, it's just going to be, you're going to definitely be needed. And I hope that's the case too with clerics and tanks. I really do. I want all three of those classes to be as needed as possible. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but let's be honest, I'd see 90% of MMO players could give two shits about lore in the MMO they're currently playing. So wanting all this awesome lore in AOC is just to be skipped. So I played WoW for a long time. I honestly could not even tell you the story of World of Warcraft. I've never cared at all about the story in WoW. I just liked it as a game, personally. I did love the story in Final Fantasy XIV, but I can't even remember like a lot of the story beats, to be honest with you. But I did have a great time doing it. Let me see. Bards and clerics are just going to be BFFs. Yeah. Well, and the tank too. I think all of you are going to share like a thruple. Y'all are going to be like a big thruple. Let me see. Also, I think fighter choosing tank secondary will be good. Probably a good tank as well. I mean, speaking PvE, yeah. Like it's like I said. I think fighter tanks and tank fighters are going to be really good when it comes to that. Do you think there is going to be instance rating content like WoW? And if so, what would be a good size for the amount of classes they would have in AOC? So I would basically make the raids. If I were to create any kind of instant raid content, the first thing I would do is not put any completed items in that raid. I would just make that raid cosmetic. So there are like set pieces you can get, but they're just costumes, or not costumes, but they're basically just there for cosmetic purposes. There's no stats on them. It's just for the look. That's the first thing I would do if I were to create instance content in Ashes of Creation. The second thing I would do is I would make every instance raid 40 man. 40 man raid. That's it. Maybe I could compromise and do 20, like 20 and 40. But I think 40 man raids, I would basically make that the default personally. Because I think it'd just be really epic to do that. I like big raids. I think it'd make it feel way more like an MMO that way than just with smaller raids. So that's what I would do. I think I would love instance raiding, but I wouldn't put any kind of a statted gear from the bosses. I would make it just cosmetic based only. So that way you just at least give PvEers something to do, something to strive for looks wise, and to be able to tackle certain bosses without the outside influence of PvP, right? So that's what I would do. Maybe no items drop off of raid bosses in instance, but maybe crafting maps. No, I wouldn't put any crafting maps in there. I would, if I was designing instance raids, I wouldn't put anything that makes you get any kind of materials from there. Materials are supposed to be sought after. Then all the instance raids are going to then be is just, oh, well, we got to do raiding this week, right? I want the instance raids to feel optional, not required. That's my mindset personally. I want it to feel optional, not required. So I wouldn't put anything material space in there. I would just put like maybe gold. Yeah, probably just gold from the drop that disperses evenly throughout the 40 players, and the cosmetics. That's it. I like 40 men in theory, but 20 men's are better in practice. I have WoW brain, so please no bully. Yeah, I have WoW brain too. I just think when it comes to classic WoW, like all of the raids are 40 men. So I just think, again, this is also a game where your guild is very much going to be a part of this process. And I understand that asking, for always asking for 40 players to always show up and do these things. People say, well, it's going to be a little, not unfair, but it's going to feel a hard task to get all these people on the same accord. Well, absolutely. That also means that the cosmetics from that raid are going to feel rare, right? If it's more easily accessible because you're allowing now 20 players to do it, then I feel like the cosmetics shouldn't feel as cool looking. So think of it like if you're looking at WoW, like in a WoW mentality, you know how Mythic always has like extra bells and whistles on the gear comparatively to like LFR, normal, and heroic? Like LFR, normal, and heroic are usually just different colors, but then the Mythic one is like a different color, but it also has like added stuff to it. I think if you are going to add a 20-man version, the 20-man version should feel like the less than version of the cosmetic, and the 40-man version should feel like an upgraded version of that same cosmetic. Let me see. I would include crafting mats in raid, but nothing that you couldn't get anywhere else. Well, then just get them everywhere else. I think there's just the fact of completing a single objective, right? Right. You're not there for crafting materials. You're there for the cosmetics. So think of it sort of like ultimates in Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 14, that's all the bosses drop is the stuff to get the ultimate weapons, right? But they're not statted sticks. They're just cosmetics. That's how I would treat instance raids in WoW or in Ashes of Creation. I would include crafting mats in raid, but nothing you can get anywhere else. Oh, I just read that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when it comes to the crafting mat stuff, I just don't want that to be, and maybe I could feel differently about it, but if it's like tier 1 materials that you can just get, like it's very common stuff, that'd be fine. But I wouldn't put anything that's like very unique in those instance. That's my thing, is I wouldn't put anything that's really unique crafting materials wise or even recipe wise in those instance dungeons. I don't know. Maybe I could put some recipes in there. I don't know. I don't know. Like, it's just in my head. I think how I first said it is how I want it. Like, just cosmetics, gold and cosmetics. That's it. Aren't the religion nodes dungeons instanced? Well, we don't really know. We just know that 20% of the dungeons are going to be instanced. Or no, we don't know that. We know that there's 20% of instance content in Ashes of Creation. That's a more accurate way to say it. Let me see. 4 or 8 man groups should be the raid size, in my opinion. That's 32 people. I don't know. 40 just seems right. I don't know. I think a lot of big streamers would like that too. I know Asmongold loves the 40-man raids and stuff like that. So having, again, the most important thing is providing an area or a space for these people to go in that isn't going to be impeded by PvP, right? And if you do a weekly lockout on that, like, you can only be in there once and then you can't go in there again, right? So I think that'd be fine, personally. But we'll have to see what more religion nodes are going to look like and stuff like that. So I wouldn't be too worried as to like the dungeon stuff yet, because I think the dungeon stuff is going to be severely worked out. But I'm still kind of nervous about the whole raiding scene in Ashes, because I think there really isn't going to be one, to be honest. I hope there's one, but it's really up to Steven at that point, if that's what he wants to have. So it's definitely a question I'm going to ask him, because I'm very curious as to the instance rating approach that I think is very heavily influenced in a lot of other MMOs, and if that is an area that he's going to try to lean into. Because for me, I love getting cosmetic rewards. Like, who doesn't like to look freaking cool? But I also love the ideas of tough challenges, right? Like, I love the fact of being able to go into a boss that has to require 40 people, and the mechanics are really like hard. You know what I mean? They're like, very challenging. Like, I like that. I think that'll be really cool. And then once you start earning that cosmetic gear, people are gonna be like, oh, damn, you did that raid? That's crazy. That's a challenging raid to do. Like, that's what I would do personally. And another thing I would probably do is, because if this may be an unpopular opinion, but I truly believe that raids, and I know a lot of my transmog people from WoW are probably going to hate me when I say this, but in order to keep content viable long term for years to come, is to standardize the raid, meaning you can never out level it, and there's always going to be the same degree of mechanics, the same degree of like whatchamacallit, like of challenge, even if you enter the raid when it first came out or 5 years down the road. Because if you're trying to earn those cosmetics, you had to get 40 people in that group, and everybody gets like descaled, right? So let's say, 5 years from now, we're level 70 in Ashes of Creation. Well, if you want to go back and do that raid, now everybody gets down from level 70 to level 50. Everyone gets swooshed down, and they have to earn those cosmetics the same way you did back 5 years ago. And again, I know a lot of my transmog players are going to hate me when I say that, but I think that is the way to go with old content. And that's what keeps old content relevant. Let me see. I don't know if I would risk the penalty of death for a cosmetic. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I think there's a lot of events too where caravans, stuff like that, you don't experience a lot of the death penalties as extensively when you're doing an event. The instance rating could be similar to an event. So Final Fantasy did a good job with that for sure. Yeah, I love that, because in WoW, you've basically created all this content that is utterly meaningless. And we've always talked about the expansion fatigue, right? Patch Tech, dude, thank you Grandpa Tech, dude, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you, and welcome. But I want the content in Ashes to have a longevity to it. And the only way you can do that is if you standardize any kind of an instanced raid like that. Because as soon as you can out-level it, like you wait an expansion and then now you can just go back to that raid and just clear it out by yourself and kill everything and earn that transmog or whatever. I think it sort of just takes away the accomplishment after a while. So in 5 years, when you earned it 5 years ago, that look, and you see someone else wearing it now, well, it doesn't have the same meaning to it anymore, because they probably just went in by themselves to kill the content when you worked your ass off 5 years ago to do that same content, right? Like, I think it's all about the respect of when you see someone wearing what you're wearing, that they earned it similar to you. I think that's the thing. It'd be nice if they never raised the level cap. Again, I don't mind vertical progression. I am a vertical progression enjoyer, but I do want horizontal progression too. I think there is way too much vertical progression in WoW and not enough horizontal progression. Like, if I had my way when it came to World of Warcraft, if you are a brand new person, I would make you go play the first raid. If you are entering like Dragonflight now, I would make it to where you have to go back and do the first raid. There's no catch-up gear. If you want to start earning gear, you got to go through the process, right? Because again, you go look at Classic WoW, there is no catch-up gear. Like, you have to go do Molten Core. Like, you have to go do like Onyxia's Lair. Like, there's a whole process of how you're going to do the raid encounters. You can't just go right to freaking Nax, right? You just can't. And I think the process is really important because, again, everybody goes through that process. And as soon as you start circumventing that process, it just makes you feel like, well, why am I having to do everything at the time it's supposed to be done? If I just wait, it's going to be easier later. And that's what I feel like a lot of stuff is missing from MMOs. The sense of accomplishment is gone. EQ's group size were 6-man, and there were 2 different types of raid sizes, 12 and 24 based on the last boss in the raid zone. If the raid boss was and epic 2 times, then it was 12-man raid, and if the boss was epic 4 times, then it became 24-man raid. Interesting. I never played EQ, so I don't know that kind of terminology, but I believe you. It'd be nice if they never raised level cap. Yeah, I know. We already have a mentoring system that will level you down so you can do content together with a new player. I mean, that is the case. I'm really curious to see that happen. I like the idea of raids, etc., dropping cosmetics instead of special armor and weapons. I also think that all of the best gear in the game should be crafted, and at that high level mobs and bosses in dungeon/raids should be where you get the special materials for crafting, giving them a special reason for repeated runs. Absolutely. And I think a lot of that stems from the open world aspect. But for instance content, I think instance content provides a special hurdle for the developers, because as soon as they start adding in certain things, then a lot of people are just going to gravitate to go into the instance content, and then the open world stuff is going to dry out. right? Depending on how the developers balance said items, recipes, gatherables, craftables, all that stuff. So I'm not really trying to give the edge to instance content, but I am still trying to provide instance content for people who do enjoy it, because I love instance content. I love going in and killing a boss when I know the mechanics, I understand the mechanics, and I can go and execute those same mechanics with my friends and we can get shit done. I like that sense of feeling. And again, when it comes to open world content, now you're having to understand mechanics, but also have the threat of PvP attached to it, right? But sometimes you don't want to be in the mood to PvP. Sometimes you just want to kill a boss. And I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of people for Ashes, is they want an avenue to be able to do some PvE content without the threat of PvP. I like Guild Wars 2 horizontal progression. There's no gear score grind, just more options that open new playstyles. Well, I remember Roar and me were talking about Elder Scrolls Online, and Elder Scrolls Online, you don't level. Like, you get to a level cap and then you just get set bonuses or tier sets with bonuses on them. And they just keep giving you new bonuses. And there's like thousands of bonuses at this point for Elder Scrolls Online. I don't know if I like that. Like, that to me gets, I don't know. I have a hard time. Like, again, I don't mind the idea of horizontal progression, but I think having a little bit of vertical progression with also complementing horizontal progression at times would be a better blend. It's like, again, anytime you go one whole way and dismiss the other, it's always bad, right? If you go all vertical progression, if it doesn't feel good. If you go all horizontal progression, it doesn't feel good. So I think you just need to have a really good myriad of both. Let me see, maybe make instance content only connected to story quests. But why though? Like, why can't there just be a place for people just to do PvE content? Like, even if it's just once a week, it's not saying daily, you know? And it's like I've told people this so many times too. People think like, oh, but it takes away people from the world. Exactly. Which means your guild has more of an opportunity to go and grab those things that are more valuable. If other people are wasting their time doing cosmetics in an instance, that gives you more time to be out in the open world getting the shit that matters. So how is it a disincentive? How is it a bad thing for people that are truly trying to take this game seriously? Right? So that's my take with it. Like, I feel like people always talk about like, oh, well, if people aren't in the world, it's bad. It's like, well, yeah, but in a game like Ashes, it's actually kind of good. You get people out of the world and they're in some instance for a couple of hours. That gives you an opportunity to go into where they are. Like, if there's a guild doing a dungeon run or doing a raid, and you know they're going to be in there for the next 3 hours, and you know that they're in the Sensual Desert, and that means there's probably not a lot of people of them behind, you can go and get and just clear a lot of the gatherables or go do a lot of the content in the Sensual Desert that you normally wouldn't be able to because that guild's raiding. So it gives you an opportunity, it gives your guild an opportunity to actually get shit done in the world. That's why I like the idea of instance content in Ashes of Creation. Or a craftable item that unlocks the boss room. Yeah. Let me see. Will I think the instance show in the open world only if certain node is leveled to certain level, for example, or other instance is then hidden? No. Well, we don't really know how instance content is really going to open up. We do know that right now, from what Steven's talked about, a lot of the stuff that he's mentioned when it comes to instance content is more story based, which personally I think is a little bit of a mistake. And the reason why I say it's a mistake is because, and it's hard for me to say it's a mistake because I don't know, right? It could not be a mistake, but it seems like a mistake because if you're only doing it for the story, well, story's finite. Once you see that part of the story, why would you ever go in that instance ever again? Unless they're trying to repurpose that dungeon again. Hopefully that's what they're thinking. I hope it's not just we're going to instance this one portion out for us to tell a story to you, and then after that there's no reason for you to go back in there. Like, I hope there's like a multi-layered purpose for the instance content. Vertex idea of allowing a guild to access a dungeon through the guild house as an instance for a guild to learn mechanics and to fight without the PvP threat. I like that. Yeah, I know Vertex talked a lot about the whole PvE stuff. I've talked to him about it, dungeons, raids. Like, you know, again, I'm a WoW player. I've raided for 12 years. I've raided ever since Wrath of the Lich King. Since oh my god, my very first raid was TOC, Trial of the Crusader. Oh god, that raid was terrible. But yeah, that was my first raid, and I've been raiding ever since. ESO does have a progression system beyond level cap. It unlocks a whole new tier that climbs to the 3000s. It's like Diablo 3's Paragon system. It allows players to make small vertical gains over time. Oh, that's interesting. Again, I haven't played Elder Scrolls Online, but I just know they're famous for the tier set bonuses or whatever. And so I don't know. And it's kind of like a little demoralizing to have I don't know, these kind of like very, very small vertical progressions that you earn. I just think what really kills World of Warcraft is the fact that you play the patch and not the expansion. I think if you're there day one and you're playing all the raids and stuff like that and you're constantly going through that progression naturally, that's fine. But I also feel like for the people that want to go in and start raiding and they have to immediately start raiding at the current raid, I think is a problem. Because you're not allowing them to play the expansion. You're literally allowing them just to play the current patch. And I think that's a big no-no. Like I think that should be and again, why that ended up happening is because of the players. Because they feel like the content is irrelevant. But it's not. Like you're going to pay a whole $40 or $70 or $100. I mean, some of the Epic editions are insane. Just to play a patch? I don't know. That just sounds weird to me. I'm not 100% sure, but I do think Steven said something about instance show and hide entrances based on the world development. Yeah, I've heard him say that too. Like, I mean, I just don't know. I don't want to make an assumption or whatever because stuff could have changed, and I just want to see it in the game first, right? Yeah, node progression and also the adjacent nodes for their state of can trigger stuff. Yeah. Here, give me 1 second, guys. All right. Well, I have been streaming for almost 4 hours. I really hope you liked today's stream. I'm going to probably get off. I got to go eat some food. But guys, thank you so much for hanging out. And again, I'll be streaming again tomorrow at 11 a.m. Central. Talking more Ashes stuff. I'm going to try to get some more content for you guys. I got to start working on my video too. I'm probably going to do that tonight. But thank you guys so much. If you guys aren't subscribed to my YouTube channel, go ahead and hit that sub button. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. If you're watching me on Twitch and you're not, that heart button is just grayed out. Well, hit that heart button, guys. Stay up to date when I go live because I'm going to be going live tomorrow, the next day, and the next day. So a lot of Ashes content coming your way, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'm going to go ahead and raid Sunny because I think Sunny is on doing stuff and he's chatting Ashes too. So to give you guys more Ashes content, let's just go and raid him. All right. Oh, man. What a day. Fun. I had a lot of fun today. This was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much again. You guys have a great rest of your day. And I will see you guys on the next one. Have fun at Sunny's.